all day long, but it's going to be a wet Friday. Does that bother you? Does that screw up your weekend plans? Doesn't mind. I can party rain or shine. I never have any problem with that. You know, got to get a little bit of. We've gotten plenty of vitamin K this week. It's time that we got a little bit of moisture. My grass needs it, and the mower's coming tomorrow. So if it rains today, it'll grow overnight, and the mower will have fun with it tomorrow. So that'd be all right with me. Uh, so what did you do last night, uh, Val? Say from 7 o'clock on.
What did I do last night from 7 o'clock on?
Yeah.
News. That's basically that's it. Read the news. Why?
I watched ESPN and watched the NFL.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, draft that was going on.
How's that?
Eh, it's typical. I'm just amazed at the size of athletes now. I mean, seriously.
Have you seen these children that come out?
I mean, yeah.
They're already football players.
I'm like, I played football in high school, and I was considered a big guy. I was 6'1" and about 203, and I was considered big. I mean, I played power forward in basketball. You're lucky if you'd even be looked at as a guard at 6'1" anymore. But they had some linemen being drafted, and they were from Samoa. And guys from Samoa are big anyway. I mean, you look at The Rock, you look at Momoa, and those guys, you get that feeling. They had one offensive lineman was 6'4", 315, and ran a 40 in 4.2. Can you imagine someone that big that can move that fast?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, I remember when the Cat played for Dallas, and everybody was, flipped out by him because he could run a 60 in about 5 flat. They're getting faster. They're getting bigger. The other guy from Samoa was 6'3" and 305. And if you're a running back's longevity in the NFL is about 5 years max. There's outliners that play for a lot longer than that. But still, that's understandable when you got guys that are, 6'5" and 315 pounds running at you like a freight train, an out of control freight train, and slamming into you. I mean, I don't care who you are. That's going to hurt, man. that's going to wake up your day. There is no doubt about it. So Mendoza went first, like everybody said he would. And I thought it was interesting. He didn't go to the draft. He stayed home. He had a party going on at his parents' house, and he was sitting on the couch with his mom and dad, and looked like a couple of his buddies. And everybody, they made this. It was a foregone conclusion that the Raiders were going to get him, and they called him, and they called his name, and big smile. Well, I wonder what it feels like. I mean, there was one guy, I forget what team he's. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He had been hurt his senior year, and a lot of people were saying they were wondering if he was going to even get drafted. He was a defensive back, and I think he was drafted number 8. And the kids walking down like a tunnel they get set up to take him to the stage to see the NFL commissioner and pose for pictures and all that crap and sign his first NFL football card. And he broke down in tears. I mean, he had to stop and take a knee. He was so overcome by emotion. And then he talked with the lady at the end. I forget what her name was. She got each of the players and talked to them for maybe 90 seconds. And this guy was just nothing but business. He says, I will prove to everybody that this was the right pick for Tampa Bay. He if he wasn't really serious, he sure had a hell of a game face. That's all I'll say, because he sure looked like he was nothing but all business. That's what he looked like.
Business. And the yep.
Yeah, man, well, he's going to make a lot of money. All those guys going in the first round are going to make a lot of money, and guaranteed money at that. That's one of the biggest changes that has happened in professional sports. Is now they give you $30 million guaranteed, which means if you go out on the first practice and blow your knee out, and maybe you're not going to play ever again, you're still going to get your 30 million, and that's good. I'm glad to hear that. The uh, athletes are can be pretty sure that they're going to see some of that money that they work so hard to get. I mean, people really don't understand. We all look at professional athletes and we think, yeah, wow, what his life is like. Well, I can tell you for a football player, uh, their life is, if they're not playing football on a Sunday, they are thinking about football. They are working out for football, and most of them don't have a life outside of football. It's not as glorified a life as a lot of people think. I think there's a lot of sports figures after they get drafted. They think, I'm on easy street now. No, the work has just begun,
Mhm.
because when you go to the NFL from college, I had a coach explain it to me this way: when you go from junior high to the varsity in high school, that's a major step up. When you go from high school to college, and maybe you were the number one or number two player on your high school team, when you go to college, everybody's number one or number two on their high school team. And so you're competing with all of them, plus the other side that you got to compete for on and against on the other teams. They're the best from their particular high schools. And then after you get done with college and you go to the NFL, you think that you're top you know uh, bull. And problem is that everybody on the other side of the ball probably is an All American or second team All American or whatever. It gets tougher and tougher every step of the way. So anyway, I was watching the draft last night. I enjoy watching the guys, because I played sports until I was a sophomore in college, and then I blew my shoulder out, and my career was over. But I just got to tell you that I can see it in their eyes. You can tell it when they come out of that tunnel and they hug the commissioner. Okay, you grab the guy, giving them a big hug, and they're holding on to each other. And the commissioner's saying things to them. And I'm sure they're saying, well, you've made it to the NFL, blah, 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 blah. I wish you the best for the rest of your career. You know, now it's how good are you going to be so that you can get the big bucks? You're gonna make a lot of money at first, but you're gonna pay a lot of people that helped you get to where you're at. And a lot of players, of course, have their own trainers, and they eat special and all kinds of stuff. The guys that really want to stick around do, at least. But that one Samoan guy that was 6'4", 315, uh, when he talked and did his little interview, he sounded like he had like the same mindset as Lawrence Taylor did. And Lawrence Taylor was a tremendous football player on the defensive side for the Giants, and this guy had been drafted by the Giants. And by the way, all you Giants fans that have been suffering over these last few years, you got John Harbaugh now going to be your head coach. Uh, I foresee that franchise turning around and things getting really serious in New York here over the next few seasons. And then you've got, because he drafted last night 3 guys that I know are going to start on the defensive side, and got himself on the offensive side, got himself a left tackle, and that's to protect the quarterback, of course, and because the guy that plays quarterback is right-handed, so the left side he's not looking that way. He depends on his linemen to stop people from getting to him. If the quarterback in an NFL game is just sacked hard, I mean, it's like he didn't see it coming. That means that the left tackle did not do his job, and he'll hear something about it once he gets to the sideline. Because you watch the linemen when their quarterbacks get sacked, and their head drops, their shoulders slump because they failed at their number one job, protecting the quarterback. And guy signed with what was it? With the New York, and they asked, "What can New York expect from you?" And he was saying, "My 100% every day at practice and in the games." And then he mentioned their quarterback and said, "I would die for you." That was pretty good. That was good. I hope you watched it. I didn't. I headed off to bed when Dallas was getting ready to draft. They had traded up, and I think they had the 11th pick. They were getting ready to do that, and they got some holes to fill in on their defense that they got to take care of. They've got a workable quarterback. They need another couple of good wide receiver, and they need a good tight end. They need another Crosby. That's what they need. So that they can move the ball down the field. All right, 7:18. We're going to at 7:35 talk to Congressman French Hill. He couldn't be with us on Wednesday, but they did say they could be with us at 7:35 here on a Friday. So we'll talk to him coming up pretty soon. But right now, we're going to pay some bills, and then I'll be back on the Dave Elswick Show.
$1,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-522-2174. 800-522-2174. 800-522-2174.
What is dedication?
The thing that drives me every day as a dad is Dariana. We call him Day for short. Every day he's hungry for something, whether it's attention, affection, knowledge. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that when he's no longer under my wing, that he's a good person. I think the advice I would give is don't need to know all the answers. The craziest thing was believing that your dad knew everything. So as a dad, you felt like you had to know everything. You had to get everything right. It's okay to make mistakes. As long as it's coming from love, then, it kind of starts to work itself out. I want him to be able to sit back one day and go, we worked together, we did a good job.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Here at 101.1 The Answer, we've got a brand new studio phone number that makes it easier for you to connect with us. Whether you want to talk to Dave Elswick, Doc Washburn, or any of our other local hosts, it's now easier than ever to let us know your thoughts. Just call 501-401-1011. 501-401-1011. One more time, 401-1011.
You can watch the show right now. The Dave Elswick Show is streaming live on Facebook. This is 101.1, The Answer.
All right, so the Dallas Cowboys, with the 11th pick, I can do it just exactly like they do. With the 11th pick, select Caleb Downs, safety from Ohio State. You didn't have to sell me on this guy. He's a great ball player. But what you really didn't have to sell me on is that he loves to play the game because he's known as the human missile. A guy in 3 years had 257 tackles. 257. That's over 70 tackles a season. Wow. He's the real deal. And then their 23rd pick, Malachi Lawrence, defensive end from UCF. They traded up to get him they traded with Philadelphia. They traded with, I forget who they traded with to get Caleb. They were number 12. They traded up to 11 to make sure that they got him to add to their secondary, because the Cowboys needed some defensive help. They lost Parsons, and their secondary wasn't all that good. This guy should help shore up the secondary some and cause problems for the wide receivers. You hit a wide receiver and really put a knock on them. Many wide receivers remember that through the rest of the game, and they get what's called alligator arms. If you've ever, it sounds better than Tyrannosaurus Rex arms, but they get to the point, if you're a receiver and you're worth your weight in gold, if you go across the middle and know that you're going to get nailed by a linebacker and things of that nature. But your arms, you don't extend your arms a lot of times, and your arms kind of your elbows are kind of to your side. So now you've taken away half of your arm length, and that makes it tough on the quarterback. So anyway, talk a little football with you today because, hey, it's not that far away. I mean, you'll be getting into the summer practices and all of that here in just a few weeks. Cubs won again yesterday. Everybody knows I'm a Cub fan. They've won 9 in a row now. Now they got to make a West Coast swing. And if they can be just a couple of games above 500 traveling on the West Coast, I'll be happy for them. But they're taking on a 3-game series starting tonight. They played early yesterday, got on a plane, flew out to L.A., and they'll be playing the Dodgers tonight. And, Dodgers, good ball club. They really are. It's the best money can buy, and they got a lot of money in that Dodgers ownership. My wife was talking to me Tuesday, and she says, "Where's the Cubs in the rankings?" I said, "Well, it doesn't matter right now. We haven't even played 25% of the season yet. I don't think we played 10% of the season yet." And she says, "Well, what do they do?" I said, "They're in last place." And they were in last place, and they were about 2 games out. And I said, "But it looks like they're getting going to get a streak going here," and they have. And they are now tied for first in the National League Central. So what's going on? It was funny. What's his name came in Thursday to talk about that business. Pat Davis. He's a Milwaukee fan, and he was talking to me a couple weeks ago. The Cubs were struggling, and he says, "What's wrong with your Cubbies?" I said, "Nothing's wrong with them." I said, "Season just started, man. Long season ahead of us." Well, Milwaukee's now 2.5 games behind the leaders now in last place in the Central. They're not in first place anymore. It's a long season. Do not, you know, if you get to the All-Star break and you're, like 15 games out and your team is looking like bullpucky, then you can start worrying. You can start thinking about, well, who can we trade and get some help with? I do believe the Cubs are going to need some frontline pitching before it's over with. Um, they need to get another couple of elite arms, and I hope they do that. They got Cabrera, and he's been doing pretty good. He's doing good. Showtime, the Japanese pitcher they got, Shota, he's looking good at the beginning of the season, but he looks like towards the end of the season, his arm tires out. So we'll see how he does, how he hangs in there. The Razorbacks, Lady Razorbacks, are doing well. They're sixth in the nation, fast pitch softball. Right now, the Hogs are ranked, I think, still in the top 25. I haven't looked this morning, but their pitching has not held up. And then their pitching shows up and their hitting doesn't show up. So have to see what the rest of this year is going to show, because the season's almost over. We're getting pretty close to the SEC playoffs. I don't think that the head coach is, Van Horn is all that worried about winning the SEC crown, but he does want to get back to Wichita and be able to play get into the World Series. That's something that he would like to do. It's not the same watching the World Series now when they moved to that new stadium. And I know that they needed to, because they were selling out those games left and right. But still, some of the personality of the old ball club or ballpark kind of went the way of the dodo bird. And have you seen what Oklahoma has done for their fast pitch stadium that they got over there in Oklahoma City? That is a mecca of fast pitch softball. They made themselves a great field, but that's what happens when you. How many World Series have they won in a row now? Seems to me 20, 21, 22.
You're talking to the wrong person, right?
Yeah, I know. I think,
I'm not a sports gal.
Just in the last couple of years, they haven't won, but up until that point, they won like 6 World Series in a row. They are the team and still are the team. Until they're completely dethroned, they are the team. All right, let's take a break. We got opinion for you.
Bill O'Reilly here, and I'm warming up. Stand by for the O'Reilly Update Morning Edition. But first,
Americans deserve a healthcare system that puts patients first. Right now, it's slow, complicated, and controlled by insurance companies. That's why more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy, a pharmacy that supports your medical freedom. You order online, licensed doctor reviews your request, and they handle the hard part. Your prescription ships right to your door. Please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/bill. Use code BILL10 to save 10%. On this Friday, did you hear about the big ruling in Texas? So federal court said that the state can command all public schools to display the 10 Commandments in every single classroom. Now, the vote was close, but it was very surprising to me because we live in a secular country now, not a religious country. But the reason the 10 Commandments won in Texas is this: our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, all of our individual rights come from Judeo-Christian philosophy. The founding fathers admitted that. And when they wrote the Constitution, they included the Ten Commandments, not per se, in that picture of Moses with the tablets, but you had love thy neighbor, don't commit crimes, obey the scriptures. You had all of that, okay, in different forms. The message was that although we are not a theocracy in America, we do believe that God has given us these rights. And now all the urchins in Texas will know it. Back in a moment. Homeowners, when is the last time you checked your home title? Scammers are everywhere and they're targeting your equity. With just a single forged document, they can file at the county. So don't wait until it's too late. Find out if you are already a victim today. Please go to HomeTitleLock.com. Use the promo code BILL to get a free title history report, plus a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection.
That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
There's a real battle going on, not only for our future, but that of our children and grandchildren. How do we ensure they have it better than we do? One way is to keep listening to us. We're your information source in the battle. 101.1, The Answer.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
We had a great vacation, but then we came back home, and after a few days, we found bed bugs or hitchhikers. We're pretty sure they joined us during our travels. That's not the souvenir we wanted, but thanks to the Bug Man, we're better now. We just wish we'd called them sooner because, unfortunately, they had spread from room to room.
Call the Bug Man at 663-9464 or go to bugman.com and check out their coupons. No contracts required. The Bug Man has been serving our community for 45 years. Call 663-9464.
Dave Elswick is the conservative voice of Arkansas, and he's back. 101.1, The Answer.
All right, we're going to join up now with Congressman French Hill from District 2. He normally would have joined us on Wednesday, but some kind of meeting came up, and you know what? His job comes before being on my show, so we reset his time for today to join us. And we got a lot of questions for you today, Congressman. Let's start off with what do you think about the president saying that he wants to recategorize marijuana to a non, really serious drug like heroin and things of that nature, which is a class 3 to a class 1. What do you think?
I have mixed feelings about it because marijuana has been such a gateway drug for people for years. Our society is very split about marijuana. There's some benefits that people have found from it with chronic disease and chronic issues, and that's why we have the legislature and the citizens came together to approve some aspect of access to marijuana, as we know in our own state. I think some 30 states have something similar, either full recreational or medical type marijuana approval. So the president's reacting, I think, to that national trend. And I've always supported more research, because the challenge I think we have is, what is a marijuana dose?
Mm-hmm.
What is the marijuana quality if you put it in this medical context, as opposed to sitting in your backyard around a campfire? And so it's conceivable now, with this scheduling issue, you could get a lot more FDA research that would do the analytic work I don't think we've ever done, that determines, here's what the composition of a marijuana dose is, and if you claim it is helpful for symptomatic issues with serious disease, which a lot of people argue it has, and some research has indicated that will get us the data. We need to have a much more definitive view, and I think that makes the market a lot safer. So as I say, mixed opinions because of the gateway nature to drugs and alcohol, particularly for young people, and the behavioral health problems that are also a result of too much marijuana use that we see documented in the research as well. So if this leads to more research and more definition, I think that could be a real benefit. And we'll just see how people react to the president's decision. But he is recognizing what you've seen in some 30 states when you have broader access to marijuana.
No, I have one other question about that, and that is you're on the banking subcommittee. What does it do for the people that are in this business that banks now can take their money?
Yeah. Well, I have, for the 10 years I've been in Congress, supported a bill that facilitated credit unions and banks taking deposits and doing business with firms in states where they're legal. So Arkansas is an example of that. And we've never been able to pass it in the Senate. We've actually passed that bill in the House, I think 7 or 8 times, because, again, here's my logic. If you're doing something illicit with marijuana sales and illicit finance and illicit distribution of marijuana, it's a lot easier to catch people and prosecute people inside the banking system than forcing them out on the fringes in the alleys and in the non-bank legal banking system. So for really all the years I've been in Congress, I've supported that approach. Our bank commissioner, Susanna Marshall, in the state of Arkansas, supports that approach. Most of our banks support that approach because they're caught in the middle. And there's serious federal law enforcement consequences to the banks.
Yeah, I agree.
In addition to the private business, yeah.
Right.
So, French, I have a question. It's Val. So there's been some confusion on if this has been already reclassified, but I know that there's a formal process that's required by the federal law. So can you explain that to folks? Because there's a lot of different headlines out there.
This will go to FDA for review. I think you'll see it produce congressional hearings in oversight of that decision-making at the Energy and Commerce Committee here in the House and the Commerce Committee over in the Senate, which is chaired by Ted Cruz, because of this split that American people have about it. And I think I outlined some of the principal benefits and some of the principal concerns. And then there were people that would not vote for the safer sort of banking act because of the just conflict in law. Schedule 1, if you're not a Schedule 1 drug, what you're doing is illegal. This is Trump. Trump is such a practical person, the way he thinks about government. He goes, here's the recognized benefit, but you have people being essentially caught in a hypocritical environment. And so this is where the president's recognizing the reality in the states and the conflict of interest in law about banking laws versus many other criminal prosecution or misdemeanor prosecution or conflicts when it's not rescheduled to Schedule 1. But you're right. There's a process, and I'm not an expert legally in that particular part of the law, but there is a process. There'll be hearings. There'll be an FDA process associated with it.
All right, we need to take a break. And when we come back, let's talk about Iran. There's a lot to talk about there. Here on the Dave Elswick Show, our guest, Congressman French Hill, District 2 Congressman. We'll get back talking to him in just a moment. But first, these.
Scott Jennings fearlessly fights back against the mainstream media on the Scott Jennings podcast.
When Republicans have even a whiff of scandal, what do we hear? Resign, step down, zero tolerance. Where is the Democratic Party? Where is the outrage? Where is the moral clarity? What do we hear from cable news? Nothing.
Subscribe for free today on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Estate planning lawyer and CPA Bob Carlson has been called America's #1 retirement expert. Tens of thousands of American retirees trust his advice. But his latest bombshell sounds almost too good to be true. It's a way to boost Social Security income and collect more on every Social Security check and create a lifetime monthly income stream 100% tax-free. So today, Bob has made it his mission to give retirees and future retirees the full story in a free report. Log on now to retirementwatchreport.com to get yours. This retirement strategy is fully approved by the IRS, even though less than 1% of Americans know enough to use it. Nobel Prize-winning economist and MIT professor Robert Merton predicts this strategy will become one of the key ways to fund retirement in the future. Log on to retirementwatchreport.com to get your free report. That's retirementwatchreport.com. retirementwatchreport.com.
In his new movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, Dinesh D'Souza brings the new Middle East into focus with a message of perseverance, faith, and a shared global destiny.
Could the fate of the world, of humanity itself, be somehow tied to this place?
At long last, we have peace in the Middle East.
Israel and Christians are coming together in a way they have never been before since the book of Acts.
But is this the end of Hamas and radical Islam? What does the Bible say?
We have to become fighters in the spirit for God. We don't accept what the enemy wants to do with our culture. We don't accept what he wants to do with the nation. If we keep fighting, we win.
Powerful, prophetic, a must-see movie based on Jonathan Cahn's international bestseller, The Dragon's Prophecy, combines history and scripture with faith, justice, and renewal. The Dragon's Prophecy, a new film by Dinesh D'Souza, now available on Amazon, YouTube, and iTunes. Now, back to the Dave Elswick Show, 101.1, The Answer.
If you've just tuned in, we're talking with Congressman French Hill from District 2. He just gave us a really in-depth answer dealing with the marijuana changes that the president suggested and brought us up to date. Because there's a lot of people who think you're going to be able to run out to the grocery store now and buy a baggie. You know, that's not... You can buy a baggie, but it's going to be empty. I'm just telling you right now. But anyway, I think it's great for the banks, as the congressman said, getting them out of the middle of this and being in the middle, and it's a bummer for them. Now let's turn to Iran. That's the other really big story today. The president posted on E yesterday late that we're going to start doing in the Arabian Sea and in the Straits of Hormuz and all of that, what we do to the the drug runners out in the Pacific off of our coast here in America. They're going to destroy those speedboats that are out there that are causing havoc. I'm all for that. In fact, when we were talking about this on Wednesday, Val and I brought that up, that we should be doing the same thing over there that we're doing here in the Western Hemisphere. How do you feel about this, Congressman?
Well, I think it's even a more very clear case. You are in open warfare. Those small boats are the boats used to mine the waters, potentially open up small arms fire, they have a series of weapon options for them. And so it is an act of war to be in either the Iranian territorial waters or out in the Strait, which is international waters, with one of those crafts. So I think it is an appropriate response. I also think it's not only an offensive response, it's an important defensive response to the civil shipping lanes there that we're conducting our blockade on, and just to protect our own naval vessels. You may remember the USS Cole.
Yes.
We have to remind the American people of Iran's 50 years of attacks. And I really don't understand the rhetoric on the left about Iran. Now, overseeing the president, when he gets to 60 days, I think you're going to have strong conversations in Congress about authorizing continued use of military force in the region. And I think that's the role of Congress. We'll see how those debates go. We are absolutely involved. We want a peaceful outcome, but I'm fully supportive of this president's actions. President Bush the other day in Dallas was quoted as bold, was his description, and that he hoped it would have the desired result. In other words, this has been behind the scenes the policy of the United States for decades.
All right, go ahead.
I'll just finish by saying that is absolutely an appropriate defensive and offensive step for naval or air forces to do that targeting, in my judgment.
Okay, so the blockade seems to be having a very detrimental effect on the Iranian government. Word is out that it's causing a loss of revenue for the Iranian nation of somewhere between $475 million and $500 million a day. How long can the Iranian government stay under that type of pressure?
Well, not long, because a lot of their central banking proceeds have been depleted, and I'm not privy. Maybe someone is privy. I'm not privy to the payment mechanisms that China has used for Iran, since they buy 80% of that petroleum. Are they paying them in RMB, for example, the Chinese currency? Mm-hmm. Or are they paying them in dollars? Or are they just doing it on a line of credit where actually no money has changed hands yet? And Iran is just ticking up a debt, at the central bank of China. You get my point. So they're under severe financial stress, and have been since the Trump administration came back into office after appeasement from Biden that followed the Obama policy. Treasury Secretary Bessent also added targeted sanctions last week on entities that are acting as bankers and facilitators for money going in and out of Iran through Dubai or other locations. So we're trying to do an economic major impact through the blockade. And I hope, what's the hope here? Let's remind people of the big picture. We're trying to get to a peace agreement with Iran that ends a ballistic missile threat in the region, ends a nuclear threat that is global, it is not regional, and ends the export of terror, which has been going on for 5 decades in the region and right here at home in the United States.
Yeah, it's not like the oceans protect us from the, Hamas or Hezbollah. They've got cells here in the United States. They've got cells in different countries in South America. They're right on our doorstep now.
It's correct. It's not an exaggeration. I mean, I saw Mike Pompeo last week. We had a brief visit at a dinner, and I was just reminded, a hit put out on Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, CIA director, and Trump won. The people were interdicted. Iran had money in New York, documented in the Southern District of New York, money to hire a hit squad to kill John Bolton, and Mike Pompeo. This is happening in our country.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. That in itself is an act of war. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in addition to, look, our media does the best they can, and I mean, I don't like the way they've handled the publications and coverage of the current conflict in the Gulf. But as a general matter, you can find through normal business channels Iran's many attacks on American interests at home and abroad. It's not hidden, but people just spin the facts. I think when you find a nation who we've prosecuted people, caught them red-handed with the money source and the people that were trying to assassinate a cabinet officer in the United States, and attempted murder of, don't forget, this is the beauty of you and I doing this show, because we have, it's sad to report to your listeners, but you and I both have exactly, 50 years of firm knowledge on what's happened in the last 5 decades. We were proud to admit it. How about trying to murder Bush 41?
Yep.
Iran. I mean, this is what staggers, how people just don't follow all the malfeasance of the decade. So anyway, I think Trump's in the right area, and we need to build a consensus of support here and not a consensus of division.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. They should be standing up with the president, because this is a regime that needs to be, placed on the ash heap of history. We don't need these kind of people stirring it up all the time over in the Middle East. And it sounds like Israel and Hezbollah are able to keep from shooting at each other until the middle of May.
Right. And look, I think it is very important for Trump, and I think both Democrats and Republicans agree with this, to keep, as long as we're actively engaged in this, we need to make sure that Israel's in sync with us and not off the reservation with, what is coordinated, because I think that does create some of the conflict in the U.S. I really do. So this is why it's important, I think, to stay synced up with them. I think the president actively participating in the Hezbollah aspect of this with Israel and Lebanon is important.
Well, what do you think about the court's decision saying that you can post the 10 Commandments in classrooms in America? This is going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, I feel, and I think the Supreme Court is going to rule in favor of posting the 10 Commandments. What's your feelings on this? How are you seeing this work out?
I think it's good. I think, because I think about this rationally, that people need good examples of civic and moral example in the classroom and growing up. That is not imposing a state religion. And, when we're in the U.S. House chamber and we're on the dais, like we're serving as Speaker pro tem, looking out over the House on behalf of the Speaker of the House, we are staring at a profile of Moses, who is staring back at the Speaker of the House. And our House chamber is surrounded by all the great lawgivers in Western and Eastern history. And so to me, that is fundamental. That happens to be the principal Judeo-Christian version. But, I don't know why we discriminate against our own legal heritage by that and flip it around and say it's an imposition of a state religion. And so I'm pleased to see it. I hope people handle it in a wise and thoughtful way is my response. I've never, since, we've been dealing with this almost 60 years now, where we've just taken, we haven't taken civics out of the classroom, but we've weakened it, I think. But we have taken a religiosity, out of the classroom, that it was overkill to assert that that's imposing religion or imposing a state religion, which is the charge, and I just think that's been overdone. And we've lived with the consequences of it now for decades. So let's see what happens. I hope it's a successful thing.
I got 2 minutes with you left. Let me just ask you and give that to you and ask, what should we be watching for? What should the listeners be watching for coming up in the House?
Well, next week is a big week. We have the Farm Bill, very important to Arkansas farmers. We just had our Arkansas farmers and cattlemen come visit with us this week. We hope to get the Farm Bill past the House next week. We hope to evaluate the Senate's proposal to fund Homeland Security and get that issue behind us. It's likely that will be on the House floor next week. I've not had a chance to read what Lindsey Graham and the Senate produced. It just happened in the last 24 hours. I hope that we are able to resolve the debate on the foreign intelligence surveillance statute that we were debating last week. We came to a negotiated settlement on that a couple of nights ago, and I hope we can get that issue across the House floor next week as well. And then King Charles is coming to Washington next week, and we are all committed to not letting him take the colonies back. We're committed to that. We're not going to do it. I know that he's seen the play Hamilton, and he thinks he can come and sing the song from the podium. I'll be back, but we're not going to put up with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm with
you. It's
a
big week in D.C. next week.
All right. Yeah. The other thing being that I don't think he's going to come up in a horse-drawn carriage either.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Although there's plenty of horse-drawn excrement around the Capitol Plaza sometimes, but it isn't from horses. It's from all the nonsense that happens.
All right, Congressman, thanks for your time. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks a lot. Bye, Dave.
Yeah, Congressman French Hill here on the Dave Elswick Show. A lot of information in that half hour for you. He'll be back hopefully with us next Wednesday, and there'll be, as he said, they're going to be looking at what's going on as far as Homeland Security. They're going to be looking at ICE. They're going to be looking at a lot of things this next week. So there'll be things for him to talk about definitely with us on Wednesday. All right, we got news coming up at the top of the hour. Who do we get coming up in the next hour Val?
Next hour is news, and then we have Dennis Milligan, who's the Arkansas auditor.
All right, so we are going to do a news dump with you. There's a lot of things to bring you up to date on that have happened over the last 24 hours. Things change. It doesn't take long for them to change in the world. We'll talk about all of that. And then Dennis Milligan, who's been a friend of mine for a long, long time, ever since he was working hard down there in Saline County. We'll be talking to him next on the Dave Elswick Show. But right now, we're going to give you the news. Let's do that.
Freedom has a frequency, and it's 101.1. The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. KDXE, Kamek Village, Little Rock.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Ferocious storms batter the plains, and Oklahoma is ground zero for the wicked weather.
A powerful tornado in Oklahoma ripped roofs off buildings, knocked down power poles, and sent emergency crews rushing into a rural community near Vance Air Force Base.
Ew, look at that! It's a satellite tornado! Good night!
Video
6 minutes after 8 on a Friday. We're going to wrap up another week of broadcasts here in about 3 hours. And we've got a lot of things to talk about. One of the first things I want to discuss as far as news goes is the Senate Republicans could not get through the SAVE Act. Of course, is the Safeguarding of American Voter Eligibility, America Act, and 5 Republicans voted against it. And I'm sure that most of you, when I read these names off, are going to go, I can't wait till they're out of office. Tillis voted against it. Tom Tillis, Republican in North Carolina, he's going to be done here in the next year or two. A person also that voted against it doesn't surprise me at all. Lisa Murkowski out of Alaska.
Is she even a Republican?
No, she's not really.
Yeah.
She needs to go.
Yeah.
And then Susan Collins.
That one too.
Republican of Maine. We need to get somebody who can run in Maine under the R banner and win. Mitch McConnell. See, he's almost done.
Yeah.
He's retiring. I don't know if when they asked him to vote, if he froze up and just couldn't push his button or what. But anyway, he's from Kentucky, and they all voted against the modified version of the Safeguarding American Voter Eligibility, America Act, early this morning. Their defections came during the Senate's Marathon Votorama, where lawmakers could force votes on any number of amendments, regardless of whether they mesh with the underlying budget blueprint. The amendment's 48-50 failure crystallized what several Republicans had warned for weeks before launching this quasi-floor takeover to debate the Save American Act last month. It didn't have the support among the GOP to pass. These are people that have always been a fly in the ointment, or giving you get yourself a splinter in your finger or whatever. They just, why do you even want to be a Republican if you can't vote for this type of legislation? You've got, it appears the proposal was doomed even if Senate Majority Leader Thune launched an oral filibuster to advance the measure with a simple 50-vote majority. So that hasn't happened. Kennedy said that he may be bringing up another amendment about the SAVE Act. This should be a no-brainer. That you got to show your ID to vote. Come on. If you vote against that, you need to be in some, classroom that's teaching mentally disabled kids, because you can't keep up with the American people. I mean, even Democrats, that people who identify as Democrats, 72 to 74% of them want you to have to show an ID to vote. This is not rocket scientists or science. When you've got, you got to show an ID to buy a beer, you got to show an ID to buy cigarettes, you got to show an ID to get on a plane, to get on a train, and just go through all the things that you have to show an ID for. But you don't have to show an ID when you're doing the most important civic thing and responsibility that you have. They always talk about, well, it's going to disenfranchise people. No, what disenfranchises people are people voting that shouldn't be voting, which cancels out, citizens' votes. That's disenfranchising somebody. It's just crazy. But anyway, those four, they're always, not doing what they're supposed to be doing. The president, as I mentioned to you last hour, says that you're shoot to kill, dealing with these Iranian mine layers in the Straits of Hormuz. Ed Morrissey from Hot Air has been covering this. He says the alternative headline should be the A-10 warthogs have entered the chat. That's the truth. In the wake of Iran's refusal to negotiate over its highly enriched uranium and its continued attacks on commercial shipping, the president has decided to redefine the ceasefire on the U.S. Israeli side as well. Trump accused the IRGC of laying more mines in the Strait of Hormuz, where the U.S. Navy had already begun mine sweeping operations. On top of that, these best way I can explain these to all my baby boomer friends is these are like PT boats. You've got weapons on, fast boats is what you got, and they're small boats. They can almost turn on a dime, and we talked about this, Val. I mentioned that to the congressman. You and I discussed why wasn't the president just taking these boats out that are Iranian attack ships and doing like they do to the drug cartels. There shouldn't be any big deal about that. And the president said so yesterday, and that he wants people to know that he's going to start taking out those boats as well. Trump said, I have ordered the United States Navy to shoot and kill any boat, small boats though they may be. Their naval ships are all 159 of them at the bottom of the sea right now. But they do have these small boats, and they're putting mines in the waters of the Strait of Hormuz. There is to be no hesitation. Additionally, our minesweepers are clearing the strait right now. I hereby order that activity to continue, but at a tripled up level. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, we'll make sure that we have control of the Strait of Hormuz, and the Iranians not being able to use it. As we've been telling you over the last few days, it's costing them $500 or thereabouts $1 million a day. That's about like $31 billion for the rest of the year. And they don't have that kind of money. Let me tell you, they don't. They don't walk around with that in their wallets. The aircraft carrier George H.W. Bush has arrived in the Middle East. So we now have 3 carriers in the region. We just had 2, but one was in dry dock getting worked on. That's been finished up, and they've been put back out into the sea. This is the first time in this conflict that we've had 3 carriers in the region. According to the Wall Street Journal, these 3 U.S. aircraft carriers and their accompanying warships are now sailing in the waters of the Middle East, giving President Trump additional warships to enforce his blockade of the Iranian ports and more firepower should he decide to resume strikes on Iran. The USS George H.W. Bush arrived in the Indian Ocean after traveling around the southern tip of Africa to reach the Middle East. That, according to U.S. Central Command, the carrier and several guided missile destroyers that travel with it will bolster U.S. efforts to crack down on Iran-linked ships. The last time the U.S. had 3 aircraft carriers in the Central Command area of responsibility was back on 2003, when the U.S. amassed a naval force to launch Operation Iraqi Freedom, a U.S. official said. The arrival of a third carrier strike group comes as the U.S. expands its efforts to go after ships supporting the Iranian regime. In addition to enforcing its blockade, the U.S. has begun boarding sanctioned and dark fleet oil tankers carrying Iranian oil. We've taken a couple. We've stopped over 30 ships now in the strait. You're going to love this. You're going to love this one, Val. Minnesota, and we know about all the fraud that's going on there, is holding hearings on. They're holding hearings on fraud, and guess who refuses to attend? If you said, Omar, Congresswoman Omar, you are exactly right. She refuses to attend those hearings. State and federal officials have accused the Minnesota Democrat of having a role in the scheme that defrauded the government and Minnesotans of some $250 million. That, according to the Washington Examiner. They summarized the accusation, the Washington Examiner did, by writing this. In 2020, Omar introduced the Maintaining Essential Access to Lunch for Students Act, which granted waivers allowing non-school based distributors to participate in the program and claim compensation for the cost of those meals supposedly served. The Meals Act loosened the guardrails on the federal nutrition program that led to the scandal we now call Feeding Our Future. That, according to Minnesota State Representative Kristen Robbins, the committee's Republican chairwoman. Omar's legislation was meant to guarantee that economically disadvantaged children who relied on free or discounted school lunches still got them while schools were shut down during the COVID-19 crisis. In what became known as the largest ever pandemic era scam, officials say Feeding Our Future, a nonprofit organization, exploited the program's expanded enrollment provisions by establishing dozens of shell companies across Minnesota and enrolling them as food distribution sites. Minnesota State Rep Kirsten Robbins says Democrat Omar was invited multiple times to testify, and she refused. Taxpayers deserve to hear from her about the role she played in this fraud scandal. So we'll see if I don't expect her to show up. Last thing she wants to do is get sworn in and have to testify. And they start asking her about a lot of this stuff that she doesn't want to be involved in that at all. All right. Get our first break here in the 8 o'clock hour. We'll be back. I'll tell you about the California gubernatorial debate that went down, and the candidates offer their grades on Governor Newsom's performance on homelessness in California. We'll tell you about all of that when we come back on the Dave Elswick Show.
Looking for heavy equipment but don't know where to buy? Purple Wave Auction has you covered.
Xavier Becerra gave Newsom an A. Well, you talk to people in San Francisco and L.A. and Orange County and places like that, they're going to look at these people and shake their heads. Becerra served as Director of Health and Human Services under Biden and has emerged as the leading Democrat now that Eric Swalwell ended his bid. Dimitri Bolt, writing on Town Hall owned by Salem Media. I always mentioned, we've got a big footprint in Salem in conservative media. Quote, the second California gubernatorial debate kicked off on Wednesday night as 4 Democrats and 2 Republicans once again took the stage in hopes of gaining ground in the polls following Eric Swalwell's departure from the race. While candidates faced a range of typical policy questions, at one point, each was asked to grade California Governor Gavin Newsom's handling of the state's homelessness crisis and explain what they would do differently. Well, the Republican candidates were quick to give Newsom an F. There's no big surprise there. I'd give him an F too. While the Democratic candidates, somewhat surprisingly, offered extremely favorable assessments. Check this out. Becerra gave him an A. Chad Bianco, Republican, an F. Steve Hilton, Republican, F. Katie Porter, a B. Tom Steyer, a B minus, and Matt Mahan got a B as well. The New York Post, writing about this, said the dance that Democrats appear to be doing could be attributed to the governor's majority approval rating from Californians, even if his disapproval rating hit a high of 45% in February. And while not expected, an endorsement from Newsom in the race could significantly sway the race. With all the BS that this governor has done and not done, I mean, just go back and look at the LA fires. Remember when the LA fires happened and all those people's homes burned up, and there's still people living in hotels, in motels, because they can't find adequate housing in the area. But he said that he was going to cut through all the, I remember this clearly. We're going to, and the mayor said the same thing. We're going to cut through all the red tape and you'll have no problem in rebuilding. Well, it's been over a year since the fires happened. And guess what? 3 people have gotten the necessary permitting to be able to rebuild. Does that sound like they've cut red tape to you? It doesn't sound like they've cut red tape to me, as far as that's concerned. I mean, just on that issue alone, this is a guy that I never want to see near the White House. I mean, maybe he can show up for a state dinner, just make him eat his broccoli. But the bottom line is that he's not even done what needs to be done for his constituents in California. And he wants to say he wants to take care of you and I. I don't think so. We'll see. The 2 Republicans that are running seem to be leading the pack right now. They would be the 2 that would go into the runoff right now if the vote was happening today, which it's not. But if it was, that's exactly what would happen. In a story we've been following because it impacts us here in Arkansas, the First Circuit Court has allowed a Texas law on displaying 10 commandments in the classroom to stand. The 10 commandments, after all, has played a foundational role in the emergence and sustenance of Western civilization. If you listen to French Hill during the time that he was on the show, he said that they rotate and let everybody be, the head of the house for one, like one day. And when you're up there and you look across the chamber, you see Moses looking back at you. Now, do we need to paint over that mural because of separation of church and state? The answer to that is no. That's been upheld. And so it was right that they uphold this. The Ten Commandments can be posted. An appellate court ruled that Texas may require the public school classrooms display the Ten Commandments. The 9-8 ruling came from the conservative Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans. All right, we've got the news coming up, and then after the news, we'll come back, finish this story up for you, and then we'll get to the rest of the news that we need to talk about before Milligan gets here on the Dave Elswick Show.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomas.
it's being put up in schools. Again, uh, this has been put in front of another court, and they have said that Texas can do that. Know that this is basically uh, going to go all the way, I think, to the Supreme Court and be heard there as well. By the way, Congressman Hill sent me a text, said, I misspoke this AM. It was Iraqi agents that tried to kill Bush 41 in 1993 in Kuwait. I apologize. All right, so easy to get the two of them mixed up. But know that, look, Iran has been a bad actor and a bad neighbor in the world neighborhood for 47 years, ever since the mullahs took over in Iran. They have been problems. I mean, I let's just name a few things. All right. Well, let's talk about the Beirut bombing. They were behind that, killed over 200 troops there in Lebanon. The Bohar Tower bombing, the Kenyan bombing of the UN headquarters there, that killed dozens of people, and it just goes on and on. I mean, if we added up how many people they've killed over these last 47 years, it's thousands. And if you want to throw in their own people that they've shot down in cold blood, I mean, they make the Chinese in Tiananmen Square look like nothing. They've killed over 100,000 people, easy. But there's a bunch of you that falls on their side. Why? You try to make it all politics at that point. There's some things that you just can't make political. I know you don't like Trump. I understand you don't like Trump. But don't you love your country? I think there's a lot of you who don't. And if you're playing politics over your country, it means you don't love your country. It's that simple. It's not rocket science. And for you, when you go to the polls, if you pull the lever or you push the button or you mark the ballot, whatever you do, and you do it for a Democrat, these are people that now are, dangerous to our country. They are causing problems. I mean, let's just look at Omar, all right? She's a Democrat. She refuses to show up in her home state right now to talk about fraud, waste, and abuse. Millions and millions and millions of dollars or such. So it's just something to keep in mind, and you should be ashamed of yourself if you're voting Democrat. I don't have any problem saying that at all, because their platform, for the most part, is anti-American. Totally anti-American. All right, I want to go back to the article about the Ten Commandments. Let's see, where's that story at here? Right in there. Okay. Let's take a look at the rest of that, because Albert Mohler chimed in on this, and I always listen to Albert because he used to be the head of the Southern Baptist Convention, and he's pretty doggone clear and straight about what a lot of these stories mean. So Mohler says, quote, "This is a bigger story than it might even appear to be from the beginning. And that's because there are huge constitutional issues that are invoked here. And we're also looking at the fact that something had to more or less be discarded or put aside in order for the Fifth Circuit to rule as it did. And that takes us all the way back to 1970. 1970. What happened in 1970? Well, that's when the Lemon case came up before the Supreme Court, and it presented what was known as the Lemon test. This was the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court going back to that era. And the Supreme Court majority actually said that in order to pass muster, that legislation is not an establishment of a religion prohibited by the Constitution, then the substance and even the motivation, the purpose of the legislation could not be remotely religious. So watch for this case. It's going to go all the way and be heard before the Supreme Court, and we'll finally get an answer on that. And it will be a split decision. I think, the liberals will stick together. Sotomayor and Kagan and Brown and the rest. And the majority, the conservatives, will not. They'll stick together and support the Ten Commandments being posted in a school. I thought it was interesting. Did you hear about Brown crying in her beer, saying, "I don't like being part of the Supreme Court when I'm in the minority," because she's losing on everything. You need to lose on everything because you had the audacity to sit in front of the Senate committee dealing with whether you could be voted on to be a Supreme Court justice, and had the hoops to say, when asked, what was the definition of a woman, for you to say with a straight face, "I don't know. I'm not a biologist." That's a person that really doesn't deserve to be on the Supreme Court. All right, I told you after the news at the bottom of the hour, I come back and talk about a buddy of mine, James O'Keefe. James has been on this show many a time. I left him a voicemail to see if he could give us 10 minutes today, but I've not heard back from him. And we're going, and probably the reason why is because he's wrangling with legalities right now, and that is somebody on the Project Veritas board put up a not a retainer. They set up, what was it that they filed?
A restraining order.
Yeah, a restraining order against James O'Keefe
in Florida, and that means, and it's under domestic violence.
Okay.
And it was Matthew. I'm finding it here. Sorry, I have all the information. I just don't have it in front of me.
That's all right.
Matthew Timmond, who was a board member of Project Veritas.
My question is it's domestic violence. How does domestic violence have anything to do with Project Veritas?
Well, I think here's the situation. So on Wednesday, the judge extended the restraining order against O'Keefe until May 11th and asked him to surrender his firearms. James was served with a restraining order while he was live streaming at his West Palm Beach, Florida headquarters on Tuesday. The Palm Beach Sheriff's deputies served James with a domestic violence restraining order. The domestic violence restraining order was from Matthew Tiermond, a former Project Veritas board member. Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department just served me with a domestic violence restraining order from Matthew Tiermond, the former board member from Project Veritas, who said he wants to murder me, James O'Keefe said. And despite admitting multiple times on hidden camera wanting me dead, Matthew Tiermond filed a restraining order against me in Miami-Dade County, O'Keefe went on to say, saying such things as I would kill him, because he is one of the most evil people I've ever known,
Amazing.
O'Keefe said. So he even shot up my book with rifle bullets through my heart on the cover. The audacity of evil has no bounds, said O'Keefe. And the restraining order was filed. So last month, apparently, O'Keefe honey trapped Matthew at a restaurant. And during the encounter in Miami Beach that was recorded by camera, Tierman admitted to being an FBI Southern District of New York informant. And Tierman responded by slapping James with this restraining order. And James O'Keefe appeared before a judge in Miami court on Wednesday morning, and the judge extended the restraining order and ordered James to surrender his firearms. James said he will be filing an emergency appeal. Full statement from O'Keefe. Just got out of court in Miami. The judge extended the temporary restraining order until May 11th. There will be a ruling then. The court is now asking me to surrender my firearms.
I would give them up until you had your day in court.
Well, we are filing an emergency appeal today, and prior restraint against a newsroom is unconstitutional. Near versus Minnesota, New York Times versus United States. This is a violation of our First and Second Amendment rights. We are filing an anti-SLAPP seeking attorney fees and will apply all the way if necessary. The TRO is also based upon third-party comments, not our reporting. That's a heckler's veto, where the government suppresses or restricts news reporting because of the reaction of an audience. This is regarding our reporting on Matt Tierman. We published a tape of him threatening to kill me. He shot up an image of me on the front of my book with a rifle bullet through my heart. He bragged about being a SDNY informant, and comments were angry at him. He just brought a domestic violence stalking restraining order afterwards in Miami family court against my news organization, and the local judge signed off. This is an extraordinary series of events. This is not an April Fool's joke.
Yeah, look, you guys know about James because he's been on my show a ton. I mean, I met him at CPAC many years ago, and we struck up a friendship, and he's been on a lot of times. Like I said, I got his cell phone number. I gave him a call, and he didn't answer. So, and he probably wouldn't come on right now anyway because he's pending litigation. So, they've been after O'Keefe for a long time. They really went after him when he started doing the hidden camera series on Planned Parenthood. And he showed all these conversations that he had with different members of Planned Parenthood, the national organization, that showed that, they were selling baby parts and things of that nature. And then on top of that, the gentleman out in California that did exactly what James O'Keefe did, went out and recorded conversations with people in a pro-abortion group, showed that they were selling baby parts, and in fact showed the baby parts that they were selling. They went after him with a vengeance, and just last week he was cleared of all the charges that they had brought against him, and this has been going on for like 3 or 4 years now. They've been that's what happens when you go after the government, and the government comes back and comes down on you, because look, you have to support yourself and pay a lawyer to protect you when they're going after you like this. And a lot of people, in fact, the majority of people in this country do not have, the money just to, throw into the fireplace, so to speak, while you're fighting against the federal government, who has a whole lot more, got the whole Department of Justice that they can come after you by. So it's going to be interesting to see how this turns out with O'Keefe. Now, when you're talking about domestic violence, it's a very broad definition in Florida, is it not, Val? I mean, you lived in Florida. She's on the phone right now. We'll get that from her in just a moment, because I don't see how you could call this domestic violence. It's not. This guy's not a family member or anything like that. He's just everyday schmo bringing up domestic violence. Now, the domestic violence in Florida is a whole lot broader than it is in other places, right?
Yeah, no, any kind of restraining order, stalking, it all falls under domestic violence, and you lose your guns until it's either you're either found guilty or innocent, and then you get them back if you're.
So now everybody knows why here in Arkansas we've been so zealous in fighting against, the whole thing about, having red flag laws.
But there's a lot of domestic violence in Florida, a lot of drinking in Florida. There's a lot of different, it's a different vibe, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, but they shouldn't be able to just take, without due process.
I agree with that. But I'm wondering, like, I'm trying to look for what happened in the case, but all I get is the minimal details. Like, there was a notice, permanent injunction of hearing, because there was a hearing. He did go, and then it wasn't just him signing. It wasn't just Matthew going saying, and then they went and took the guns. There was a hearing, and O'Keefe was there with his attorney. And so I'm trying to find out what happened, because I've not seen anything about that yet. So he did appear. There was another hearing set for May 11th.
But again, let me go back to, you mentioned something when you were reading the story earlier, that this guy was an informant for the FBI. Is that right?
That's what he got him on, on video or saying. So, and apparently he didn't like that, and he went ahead and filed. I guess he considered honey trapping him as stalking.
Yeah. Well, Cash needs to jump in on this.
But what news organization gets charged with stalking? Like, he's a journalist.
I understand.
It's not like he dressed up and hopped out of a fern or anything.
That was the same thing that they argued about David out there in California, and
they're making a law against him now.
They threw him in jail he was there for like 6 or 8 months. Unbelievable. All right. Yeah. 8:52. We got to get a break in. We'll follow this story, and I'll see if I can't get James on next week.
Could you imagine, though? You got a guy that says that he's going to kill you, or he wants you dead, and then they come take your guns so you can't defend yourself.
Well, of course.
That's insanity.
That's the way the left works.
That's insanity.
I just said it's the left. They're not the most how we should say stable personality people I've ever dealt with. All right, a break, and then we'll be back, and we'll finish things up here on the Dave Elswick Show for the 8 o'clock hour.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
We just kind of knew from the beginning that we were family.
They showcased a sense of love that I never had before. I mean, he's not only my parent, he's like my best friend.
At the end of the day, it's all been worth it. I wouldn't change a thing about our lives.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council. We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
When I met both of them, it was like my missing pieces were found. Like, it was just like an instant, these are my kids. If you're considering adopting a teen, just do it. Kids need families. I don't care the age. Everybody deserves a family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
This is 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Start your day with Dave Elswick in the morning, breaking down the stories shaping Arkansas and the nation, and hearing what you have to say. Then in the afternoon, join Doc Washburn as he takes on the biggest headlines, asks the tough questions, and opens the phones for real conversation. Because on 101.1, The Answer, talk radio means your voice matters. Call in, sound off, be a part of the discussion at 501-401-1011. Plus, hear from some of the biggest names in talk radio. CNN Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, Larry Elder, bringing you smart analysis, strong opinions, and the debate everyone's talking about. Local voices, national perspective, and your chance to be heard. 501-401-1011. 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. This week on Capitol Hill is the best way to get informed on everything going on with Congress. Hosted by Tony Perkins and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
If the Democrats don't want to play along, and we have a suspicion that they don't want to enact more of these nation-changing conservative policies that are fixing everything, we might have to resort to another reconciliation package.
Stay informed and become a regular listener. This week on Capitol Hill, Sundays at 8 a.m. on 101.1.
with James and try to get him back onto the show next week to do that. Now we're coming up into the next hour. We're supposed to have Dennis Milligan on, but something, an emergency happened at home and he has to go home. So we're going to have somebody from his auditor's office to sit down with us and talk about the treasure hunt and everything that's going on over in his fiefdom, as I like to call it. So he'll be talking with us in a few moments, and then at 10 o'clock, Razorback Zach's going to be on. We'll talk about Razorback sports, but I also want to talk to him a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys and their draft day yesterday, and what that means for you Cowboy fans out there, and see what they have to say. What he has to say about that. They got themselves a good safety. They got themselves an edge rusher. So those are good things for you if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan. Now, it doesn't mean the two people that they drafted are going to be, knockout great players. You've not seen any of these players that have been drafted play in the NFL. I mean, they are high-end college players, but there's been more than a few draft choices that went really in the top 10 or top 20 that didn't pan out before it was all said and done. They're out of pro football now, and they had their flash in the pan, so to say, on that. Back to the news, I can look at that right now and say that, let's see what we got here. I was sent some other information during the break. Oh, come on. All right. Other stories that we probably should mention. We've just about covered everything. The Israel-Lebanon ceasefire has been extended by 3 weeks. That's been taken care of. Joining the meeting in the Oval Office were President Trump, Vice President Vance, Secretary of State Rubio, U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee, U.S. Ambassador to Lebanon Michael Issa, Israeli Ambassador to the U.S. Leiter, and Lebanese Ambassador to the U.S. Navdav Hamadi Mouawad. President Trump said the United States is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah. You remember now, the Lebanese government doesn't run Lebanon. It's run basically by Hezbollah, and they've done more than their fair share of killing people. I look forward in the near future to hosting the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu and the president of Lebanon, Joseph Aoun. It was a great honor to be a participant at this very historic meeting. So we'll keep our eye on that as well. Right now, I got my eye on the clock, and it tells me in 30 seconds we've got a break so that we can get to the news. So a little bit of music for you, and then into the news here on the Dave Elswick Show.
month on a New York runway heard an air traffic controller repeatedly shouting, "Stop," over the radio, but did not know who that warning was directed to. That's according to a just-released investigative report. Both pilots were killed in the crash. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Our Senators John Bozeman and Tom Cotton and Representative Bruce Westerman are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Wow, 9 o'clock hour already. And Thomas Birchfield's going to join us. He is from the auditor's office. Dennis Milligan was going to be on with us today, and something came up, and he had to rush somewhere else. But Thomas has been out high and low across Arkansas talking about things that are going on in the auditor's office. So he'll be able to sit and talk to us here for this half hour and discuss what's happening in the auditor's office. First things first. I've had Dennis on many a time talking about the great Arkansas treasure hunt. And that's kicking in again. Is that right, Thomas?
Yes, it is. It's nonstop. So we're always trying to help return unclaimed property to Arkansans and all across the state. And that's sort of my main job, is to travel and find folks money. And matter of fact, I'm going to a group next week, the Developmental Disabilities Association, and they are nonprofits that take care of developmental disabilities.
Right.
And there's two organizations that have quite a bit of money, Easter Seals and Friendship Community Care out of Russellville and Little Rock. And between the two of them, over $65,000. They don't know they have.
Wow.
Y'all are the first ones to know. So I get to surprise them Wednesday morning with those monies. So organizations, nonprofits, churches, of course, individuals have money. We still have over 400 million in the Great Arkansas Treasure Hunt right now.
So are you going to show up like, the Publishers Clearinghouse?
I will have the big check with me just in case they want to take a photo of, because always got to take that big check with me. So yeah, excited. I'm going there on a personal matter. My daughter has Down syndrome, which is a developmental disability, and Civitan and Benton takes care of her. And so they've asked me to come.
That's a great organization.
Yeah, they're great folks. And so they're allowing me to come and talk about the benefits that she receives, sort of brag on them. But then at the same time, I say, well, I've got to look up all these organizations, see if they have money. And so I'm going to be making it rain down there with some money.
It's
I'm excited.
raining outside right now.
It's pouring. I'm literally soaking wet walking in this morning. So, but I'll be making it rain some money on behalf of Auditor Milligan in our office, and it's exciting. We have the best job at the Capitol when it comes to unclaimed property and getting money back to Arkansans.
And now you have you had a bill passed the last legislative session that helps you guys take care of that money without those people knowing that they're going to get money.
Yeah, the data match program. Yeah, we got that passed thanks to the legislators, and it's millions and millions of dollars. I want to say it's somewhere over 11 to 12 million already sent out just through that program itself. Since we've been in office, we've returned over $120 million.
Wow.
And that's us hustling. That's not us sitting around. Yeah. So that's a lot of, that's our outreach team, myself and my coworker running around the state along with Auditor Milligan doing mobile offices. And, a lot of folks thought this was a scam for the longest time. We're starting to see the fruits of our outreach. A lot of folks don't think that anymore. And so now we're constantly slammed with claims, which is a good thing. And so we're returning money all over the place.
Yeah, all people have to do is to get a hold of you, and you all will do a search for them, and they can get back to you. You guys can get back to them pretty pretty quickly.
We do, yeah. And they could always check our website, claimitar.gov, and search for family, friends, deceased relatives, churches, businesses. There's countless churches that we return money to that they didn't know either. So, and with Civitan, the organization I was talking about earlier, my first day on the job, I looked them up and found them 22 grand they didn't know they had. So, you know, it's a huge blessing to work in this office and to be able to do something positive in Arkansans' lives. Good government's always good.
Now, I got to tell you, one of the other things that Thomas did is when I was over at the Capitol, I was over there twice a week during the general session. He'd come by and made sure that I had a full cup of hot coffee.
Hey, you know what, Dave? You're a taxpayer, so I'm going to take care of you. So any taxpayers want to show up, Arkansans, even our brothers and sisters in other states, anytime, our door is always open. We're always happy to give tours. We're not the treasurer's office like we used to be, you know, handing out or letting you hold that $600,000. But we're still pretty fun down the hallway right across from the governor's office. So anytime someone wants a cup of coffee, your taxpayer dollars paid for it. I'll make you a cup of coffee.
All
So
right. I appreciate that. Thanks so much. And it really comes in handy when you're on the air and it's not like I get to get up and walk around and go somewhere during my breaks. I just sit here like a lump on a log and then my show gets over and I try to figure out how to walk again. So
well, I mean, you're the man of the Capitol during session. People come to you, so
Yeah.
and then coffee's handed to you. So I mean,
that's always good.
It was.
You got to have coffee. I'm just telling you, it is the nectar of life as far as I'm concerned. All right, so let's talk some other things. I mean, the president, brought into fruition a savings account for kids born in America, starting at a certain date, going to a certain date. But here in Arkansas, I know I've had Dennis on several times. There are ways that you can, get the funds for your child's college.
yes, yeah. It used to be called the Arkansas 529. I believe it's called the Brighter Future Savings Plan now through the Treasurer's Office. And my children actually have accounts with that. My oldest daughter, who's 15, has a good savings with that, and it's an investment tool. But it's doing great. It's going to help pay for some of her college. And my daughter with Down syndrome that I mentioned earlier, Cecilia, she has one like that called Arkansas Able. It's a investment savings tool for those with disabilities, which you can use for practically anything. So it's both of those plans are wonderful. So
Well, that's what government's supposed to do. It's supposed to help people.
it is supposed to help people, and those are really great tools to have in your tool chest or toolbox. So any families that are listening today, check that out. You can check it out at the Treasurer's website, I imagine, but both of those plans are wonderful. And I would really encourage you to look into that. I want to be careful here because I'm not an investment. I'm not, expert in finance by no means, but I feel comfortable investing my money in those plans personally. And so if I'm willing to risk it, I think it's a good plan. So,
Well, you probably feel the same way I do, that you use a lot of the plans. I mean, I'm sure you ran your name through the Arkansas Treasure Hunt website to see if you had any money.
I did, and I have zero, but now my bride had 68 cents. I made her claim the other day.
Oh,
and
wow.
I saved the state of stamp. I walked down the hallway and picked up the check. It took her a while to cash that check, but we cashed it because it was her money. But I found many family members and friends that have money. We were doing a mobile office in Sherwood with the city's mayor there. I think her name was Mary Jo. And while I was there doing my job, I also looked up some cousins who lived in Sherwood. They had $200. Called
There you
them.
go.
They came down. We did the paperwork and knocked it out. So yeah, and now they have money. So
Have you looked in this, Val? Have you checked it yet?
Nope, I have not.
Well, you've got it
Yeah.
up there in front of me. I can look at it. You can you can take it down and look your name up, because if you have like $200,000 or something, you're not going to want people to know about it.
I'm not
she could
that
take you out to
lucky.
lunch.
I'm
Well-
not that lucky, but other people should do it because,
There was some lady down in Hot Springs that had a lot of money.
Yeah, she had $1.4 million.
What?
So yeah, we got that to her right before
Goodness.
Christmas, year before last.
What in the world would something like that come from? Like
Those are monies, and
inheritances,
I
or-
want to say CDs and maybe some savings accounts that her father had that she didn't know about. And
Wow.
then so we helped return those monies. And for those, I know, Val, you lived out of state for a little while. For those who have lived out of state, go to missingmoney.com. You can put in the state that you lived in, and you'll be able to search and see if you have money there too. So
Wow.
folks who come through the Capitol weekly that are out of state, we tell them go to missingmoney.com and find money and unclaimed property all across the state or all across the country.
So nice to find an administrative part of the government that actually does something for the people.
Yeah, doing their job.
Yeah, exactly.
We love serving Arkansans and our brothers and sisters in other states. And it's, like I said, I was bragging on a second ago, we have the best job at the Capitol. I mean, we hand out money. You can't be hating on us too hard. So
No.
we love it.
Yeah. Most people who show up, and I don't know who they are, and they're with the government. I remember the 8 famous words that Reagan always said to be aware of. Hi, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
For once, that's true.
Yeah.
With our office, for sure. I'm going to brag a little bit. I've been in state government off and on and county government since 2013 with Auditor Milligan. I joined him back when he was circuit clerk down in Saline County.
Yeah. I've been with him since then.
And I've never seen an office work as hard. I'm talking about from the claim agents to our warrants department to our accounting department. They're constantly working, and it's that business initiative or sort of mindset that Auditor Milligan has. We're run like a business, and he expects results, and we've been knocking it out.
All right, Thomas Birchfield is with us. He is a outreach manager. We'll talk further with him in a moment. We got to get a break in. The auditor, Dennis Milligan, was supposed to be here today, and Dennis always likes to come on the show.
He loves coming here.
And we just don't have, he had something come up and kind of got him flamboozled. And so that's it. That is a word. Look it up. And, he's taking care of it right now. All right, a break and then more here on the Dave Elswick Show.
Attention. If you suffer from consistent pain in your joints,
slow down out there. It's raining hard. And it hasn't rained like this in a little over a week. So that means a lot of oils and dirt and things of that nature were on the highway, and you mix water with that, it gets slippery, and you won't be able to stop as fast as you would hope that you'd be able to stop. In fact, Val, I talked to Joe yesterday, and Monday after I get off the air, I got to go over to Joe's garage, and we're putting 4 new tires on my car. I think I told you this yesterday. I got all excited because I got in under $1,000 for my
Crazy.
tires. Well, that is good. I had been looking and holding on it because tires have just, like everything else,
Oil, yeah.
has gone up a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. I replaced my bride's tire, or 2 of them, the other day, and it was around $500. And it was ridiculous. I was I don't like to spend money, so
No, I don't.
but she needed it. So
Well, good. I'm glad that you took care of that, and she'll be driving in today. She'll definitely be thankful for that.
Oh,
those
yeah.
tires, get you stopped out on wet road. All right. So what else is happening over with you guys at the auditor's office?
well, like you were saying, we're kicking up our treasure hunt run again. We're going to be going all over the state. We're going up to Northwest Arkansas next month in May, doing some check presentations. We found some nonprofits up there, some money. There's a famous barbecue place called Wright's Barbecue.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, they've got a location here in Little Rock now. They are originally from Johnson, and we found them over $14,000. So we're going to try some barbecue while we're up there and enjoy that. And then we're planning on going to Jonesboro in September and doing some check presentations up there. There's a coffee business, a local one up there that has 22 grand. And there's a technology sort of IT business that has 25 grand up there. So not only are we focusing on nonprofits, businesses, and churches, I mean, we're anywhere we can find money, we're going to make it happen. So those are some of the check presentations that we're looking at. And we're just going to be going nonstop.
So how much is sitting in the bank for the auditor's office now?
We've got $400 million still in there. And
Holy cow.
it was $400 million 3-4 years ago when we went in, and that well keeps filling up over and over and over. We're getting it out as fast as we can, but that's why we need help. So any listeners, tell your family and friends, check on claimitar.gov, look up everyone you know, because someone, even if you don't have money like myself. I didn't have money. I knew I had family members. My bride had money. My daughter's school had money. Someone that's got money. So we want that money to be gone. So y'all claim.
That's really amazing.
Yeah, it's exciting. So doing that. And then we've got all kinds of initiatives going on with our office. But with me being the treasure hunt guy, I'm focused on just getting that money out.
Yeah,
one thing, check. Of course, we have physical items in the office too, in our vault, which I know Auditor Milligan's talked about. With baseball season going on right now with the Travs down the way, we've got a baseball signed by Babe Ruth in our vault that we need someone to come grab.
It's worth some money.
It is worth some money. We've got gold bars, silver bars. We've got war medals. We even have a set of dentures. Someone needs to come and grab those. We do.
How do you lose your dentures and not know it?
Someone put their dentures in a safety deposit box, and then it expired and came to us, and so. Someone's missing dentures out there. Some lucky person, some heir is going to grab some dentures. I will say we do actually do, legally we're allowed to auction off items after a certain amount of time. Those are turned into the money. And so those monies will still go to the original owner. But if those dentures ever go up for sale, I'm going to grab them just for having a talking piece as I'm traveling around the state. So
I wonder if you put that Babe Ruth baseball up for, sale, you'd have some big time.
That owner would be getting a lot of money.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. So that's very cool. So explain to my listeners here. We've got about 4 minutes left. How this money ends up in the auditor's office in the bank.
So with unclaimed property, it's monies that belong to you, but for whatever reason doesn't get to you. So there could be a rebate check that's come to you, you've moved and it just doesn't go to the right address. You can be an heir to a beloved uncle that has $1 million that wants to, give it to you and he never told you about. And so safety deposit boxes, when they expire, they come to us if they can't find the original owner. But usually, it could be a rebate, could be insurance check, but usually it's monies that for whatever reason doesn't get to you, or you forget about cashing the check. After a certain amount of time, those businesses are obligated to turn those monies over to us, and then it's our job to return those monies to you. So we have a little bit more resources at our hands or disposal to be able to help return those monies to Arkansans that sometimes businesses don't have. And so that's how those monies end up coming to us.
I mean, that's what happens a lot of times when you have deposits for water, deposits for electricity, all those things. Let's say you live in your house for 30 years. You put a deposit down 30 years ago to get the electricity turned on.
Yep.
And it's being held basically by the company. And you pass away, it's got to go somewhere.
That's right. And then that means your heirs are eligible for that. And then they go through, our normal process, and we try to return those monies to them. There's a lot of heirship claims that we have. Those take a little bit more paperwork sometimes, but we're going to work hard to make sure that you get your money back. Our claim agents are wonderful with that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. And Dennis does a good job with money. I'm just telling you, when he was with the Treasury, he made a lot of money for the state.
He did. Yeah. So he earned the state a little over $600 million through investments over that 8-year period. At that time, that's the most that any other state treasurer had done in our state's history. So he does a great job wherever he's at.
He didn't have to offer anybody any cherry pie.
No pies, no bribes, no nothing. We don't take gifts at our office still to this day. So yeah, I'm glad we were able to clean up the treasurer's office and do some good work.
That's good. Yeah. Is Schaffner out of jail now?
She's out of jail. I think she's just sort of, I don't want to say enjoying retirement, but I think she's just doing her own thing.
Keeping her head down.
Yeah, God bless her. I'll pray for her and hope, she does well, but she's served her time and she just needs to stay out of government.
Yeah.
So
she needs to stay away from the government.
That's right.
About that. Okay. So this is cool. You come in, I usually have Dennis come in once a year to talk about this. So it's that time of year.
Yeah. Well, and
I mean, if you won several hundred, if you had several $100s to just scheme your way that you weren't expecting, if you're going on vacation, you might be able to do a few extra things.
Yeah, and we've, and this is the first government office that I've worked in. I mean, we've changed some lives in the treasurer's office because we've earned the state so much money. But being able to, we had a sibling couple come in that one of our claim agents actually called them, realized they had some money from an actual uncle. It was around $77,000. They didn't know they had. It was two brothers and a sister, and I'm try to be discreet here, but they drove in a sort of a beat up vehicle, and the sister was crying because she needed the money so bad, and it was a blessing. She ended up, the car actually broke down a couple of days later, and she was able to use those monies to buy a vehicle that she needed. So we were able to actually change lives through good government, which is a passion of mine, and I know it's a passion of Auditor Milligan's. So,
well, it's a passion that you should have. That millions upon millions of dollars just waiting to be claimed.
That's right. All they have to do is go to our website, claimandar.gov, or call our telephone number 501-682-6000, and you'll be able to talk to claim agent. They'll search for you if you have problems with the website, which it shouldn't. It's a wonderful, easy website. But if you just don't want to look it up yourself and you're here at the Capitol, you can holler at me, Thomas Birchfield. I'm your outreach manager. I'd be happy to look up all your family and friends because I want you to have money.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's when you come bearing checks, that's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
I'll be happy to see you.
Yeah. It doesn't matter where you come from. If you're a taxpayer, we're going to take care of you.
Yeah,
so
I can tell you when I go in to see people, they're typically not happy to see me because I got questions.
Well, you got questions. You got to stir the pot a little bit. You got to keep them on. You got to keep them
honest.
Kind of That's right.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you back out into the rain.
Sounds good.
Be sure that you drive safely out there because it's supposed to pour down for several hours right now.
Sounds good. I'll be careful I'll see you all at the Capitol.
All right. Thomas Birchfield. He's an outreach manager for the auditor, Dennis Milligan. We'll have Dennis on in the future. He'll come by. He loves coming to the show. He really does. He's a great friend of the show, and he's done a great job politically here in the state on the county level. He's been, he's been the chair of the Republican Party. He's done a lot of different things.
He serves well wherever he's at. He does a great job.
Yeah, he does a good job. All right, let's get to the news here on the Dave Elswick Show.
SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington.
It's a Friday show on the Dave Elswick Show here at 1011. The answer. We got about a half hour left here in the 9 o'clock hour. Our thanks to Thomas Birchfield for coming in and sitting down and talking with us for a few minutes, taking the place of his director in the auditor's office, Dennis Milligan, who got called away at the last moment. But going to be interesting to see exactly what is happening over there. You know, they've done good work over at the auditor's office, and And Dennis has done good work as far as he was the state treasurer for 8 years. He worked down in Saline County for several years. And wherever he shows up, the organization tends to do their job and do it very, very well. We got a couple of more stories here that I wanted to get to. We got Razorback Zach coming in here in a few minutes. We're going to talk to him about what's going on here in Arkansas with sports. We'll talk a little Cowboys as well because he's a Cowboy fan. I don't think he wants to admit it, but he is a Cowboy fan. I'm looking here. Let me get down to the bottom here at these stories. There is a new terrorist group, a proxy threat that people are saying that need to be watched. It's called the Popular Mobilization Force, and it's not in Iran, it's in Iraq. We have long talked about the threats of Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen. Eli Lake now is warning of a newer and newly potent threat called the Popular Mobilization Forces in Iraq. According to the Wall Street Journal, the militias are responsible for drone attacks on the Kuwaiti consulate in Basra and the Emirate consultant in Iraq's Kurdistan region. Quote, since the start of the conflict, the Kurdistan region has been consistently attacked externally by Iran and internally by the Iranian-backed militias. The Kurdistan's regional government's representative told us in an interview earlier this month that Aziz said that the Kurdistan region has absorbed more than 700 attacks from drones, missiles, mortars, and rockets, resulting in the deaths of 16 people and over 90 serious injuries. Being quoted, the militias are responsible for a lot of the havoc, and the government in Baghdad is not doing enough to rein them in. The Iraqi militias, also known as the Popular Mobilization Forces, have not observed the ceasefire that Trump extended on Tuesday. They have continued to launch drone, rocket, and missile attacks, one U.S. defense official working on the Iran war said. So it's not the safest place in the world right now over in the Middle East. And then finally, and this is a story, but it's one of those no-brainer stories. The quality of life in Los Angeles County is at an all-time low, and the folks at UCLA have been measuring that for 11 years. There's plenty not to like about Southern California today. UCLA has conducted this study for 11 years. Let me tell you what it's done. It is the lowest quality of life index on record. UCLA putting out a press release says Los Angeles County residents are less satisfied with their quality of life than at any time in more than a decade, that according to the 11th annual UCLA Los Angeles County Quality of Life Index, a project of the UCLA Luskin School of Public Affairs in partnership with the California Community Foundation. The overall index dropped to a historic low of 52, with 6 of the 9 categories that comprise the index also falling to their lowest levels on record. Top line numbers, 52, lowest quality of life index score on record, 40% share of voters undecided right now in the LA mayoral race, 31% of residents worried about deportations, 26% residents are reporting wildlife-related income loss, and 56% dissatisfied with wildfire recovering efforts. UCLA has that full report out if you want to take a look at it. But I'm surprised that the dissatisfied folks with the fire recovery efforts is just at 56%. I mean, those fires destroyed whole neighborhoods and changed lives for a lot of people. It's hard to find, almost find a hotel room right now down there around LA. People are living in hotels and things while they're trying to get their life in order from the problems that they've had because of those fires that swept through the valleys out there outside LA proper. The mayor having some real problems. She wants to get reelected, but 40%. I mean, that's a lot of people. 40% of registered voters are undecided in the LA mayoral race. That does not bode well for the mayor who's running for reelection. I don't know if she's going to make it or not, as far as that goes. All right, let me jump over here to the Daily Wire, see if they have anything for us to get to before we call it a day and we get into sports. Trump is hinting at a major 2020 move if the SPLC found guilty of fraud. One of the greatest political scams in American history is what some people are saying. President Donald Trump commented on the federal charges facing the Southern Poverty Law Center. These people are just disgusting, to be honest. Early this morning argued that the leftist group's potential fraud is another Democrat hoax that places the 2020 election results into doubt. Trump made the comment in a post on Truth Social, marking the first time he has publicly addressed the allegations against the Southern Poverty Law Group, which was charged earlier this week with multiple counts of wire fraud over its scheme to pay the leaders of multiple white supremacist groups in exchange for information. Quote, the Southern Poverty Law Center, one of the greatest political scams in American history, has been charged with fraud. This is another Democrat hoax, along with Act Blue and many others, Trump wrote. If it is true, the 2020 presidential election should be permanently wiped from the books and be of no further force or effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The SPLC, which started in the 70s as an organization to push back against racism and segregation in the South, has been paying leaders of extremist groups for decades. That, according to an indictment unsealed by the Justice Department Tuesday, the indictment states that the SPLC secretly used donor cash to pay so-called informants affiliated with racist groups, including the Ku Klux Klan, over $3 million between 2014 and 2023. The SPLC is closely aligned with the Democratic Party goals and talking points and has a political action fund that almost exclusively endorses Democrats in state and local elections in the South. Between 2015 and 2023, The SPLC paid a member of the white supremacist group that planned the quote Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017. That's according to the indictment. The rally, which turned deadly when a man drove his car through a crowd of counter protesters, became the main reason behind former President Joe Biden's 2020 election campaign. Biden pointed to the rally in his campaign in his announcement on video, pinning blame on Trump and saying, quote, "In that moment, I knew the threat to this nation was unlike any I had ever seen in my lifetime." Yeah, you had one of your groups on the left paying, groups on the right that were raised in hell about, in Charlottesville and other places. It's like a fire department. Let's use a volunteer fire department, and they were taking their own money and paying arsonists to go out and start fires. I mean, that's literally what this is doing. The SPLC asking you for money, and you've given them millions, and then they use that money to pay the very groups that they're supposed to be going out and trying to stop. The SPLC has also engaged in a campaign to label mainstream conservatives as extremists and has used its influence to pressure social media companies and the federal government to censor conservative voices. The SPLC was used as a resource by the FBI to identify extremists before FBI Director Kash Patel cut the Bureau's ties with the leftist organization last year. In his post on this morning, Trump also called out the Democratic Party fundraising platform ActBlue, which is under scrutiny over accusations that it allowed foreign contributions in American elections. Trump maintains that he was the rightful winner of the 2020 presidential election, which Biden won by over 70 electoral votes amid major controversy over mail-in ballots and ballot harvesting methods. Some of the statements coming in for this story. Anything aligned with the Democratic Party should be called into question. All the media outlets, all of these nonprofits, the DNC, it just gets more insane by the day. And then Walkaway Joe said that this is not going to change a single demon voter mind. They love this stuff. Truly unbelievable. This is where we are in America. And I agree with that. All right. Is Razorback Zach here? Has he got here to the station? Have you seen Zach? Oh, he's there. Well,
He's
let's
in here
send him
running his
over.
mouth now.
We'll come back after the break and talk with him as we will fire things up for what's going on in sports here locally in the state and nationally in the NFL.
Mike Gallagher sees a lack of respect.
As we've got ICE at our nation's airports,
from Alabama, making him heir apparent to their quarterback that they have right now, who's been doing a great job.
Yeah, and that to me it doesn't make a lot of sense of why they did that. I mean, yeah, you want a decent backup just in case he goes down, because if
they don't have anybody.
They don't have anybody. It's like the Cowboys. If Dak goes down, who are you gonna? I mean, who's the backup? Cooper Rush?
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He did okay when Dak broke his ankle a couple years ago. But again, you want somebody that's I want to say experience, because but
he's got a little bit of experience.
He's got a little bit, but to me, that high in the draft though, did they see something we didn't?
I don't know. I just know that the way the draws dropped at the draft, you probably dug up all the concrete that they were standing on. You know what I'm saying? It was really
when
amazing.
I got the alert, because I was busy doing another project, but when I got the alert, I looked down and went, what?
Yeah, he was like 13.
He's like top 15. I'm like, there's no way he's a top 15.
No, he's not. But he's going to make some big money.
He is, but is he going to make an impact? Is the question.
I said money. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be successful.
True.
I mean, look, I can go back and talk about you had when Peyton Manning was waiting to be drafted. I forget who was going to go, saying that they were going to go after him, and he said, "I won't play for him."
Chargers. No, that was Chargers was Drew Brees. Who was? Oh, I think was it the Giants?
No, I don't remember. All I know is that Peyton Manning said, I'll sit out a year.
Yeah, and I know the story. I just can't remember what team it was. I know that the Chargers wanted Drew Brees, and that's how he ended up with the Saints. And then, of course, everybody knows Brady's up and coming when Bledsoe got hurt.
Yeah, but you look at Leaf, who was
that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Okay, he was the number one pick. San Diego, wasn't it? Yeah, number one pick, and
he was at a Boston college, wasn't he? I think.
No, he was like Oregon or somebody. He was a West Coast team, college. But anyway, he played 1 year and could keep his life under control.
Yeah.
After that, everybody knew this guy was bad news.
Well, it was like Jamarcus Russell out of LSU.
Yeah.
When he went to the Oakland Raiders. He was a stud at the time at LSU, goes to the Raiders, and he's a bust.
That's because he's a bum.
Well,
I was really I was talking to my wife. She doesn't watch the draft. She was just sitting there scrolling while I was watching it. And I said, you know what's been incredible today? And she said, what's that? And I said, have you listened to these players that they've interviewed after they've been drafted? It's not like Ebonics High. All right. And she says, what do you mean? I said, these guys are speaking great English. They sound like they're well educated. I said, football teams have gotten better now, knowing that there's more than just size and and stuff.
Well, and Dave, one of the things now, especially with NIL, going through college and everything, they actually go through media classes to learn how to interview and answer questions to the press and everything else.
Well, everybody did great. The one that really kind of touched my heart a little bit, and I forget, was it? He went to I think he went to Giants, secondary guy, and they walked down like that
little hallway type thing,
with the team logos on it and stuff. He stopped and had to take a knee because he was crying. That tells you.
That tells you what I mean. Some of these guys, this is their dream.
Oh yeah,
this is what they work their entire lives for, and then some of them like to take advantage of it and go, I'm an NFL player now.
No, they didn't say that. None of them. All of them humble guys.
Oh yeah,
that was very cool yesterday. I was really pleased to see that. I was also amazed at. Look, I followed NFL for a long time. The guys that came from Samoa, they're huge.
They're big dudes.
They're huge. The one guy that was 6'4" and a quarter and weighed in at 315 pounds and can run to 40 in 4.5.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being a running back?
I don't want to be the running back that's running into that. No.
This guy was huge. He make rock look small.
Yeah.
He really would.
And for him to move at that size,
yeah,
whoever gets him is a steal. That's a gold mine right there.
Yeah, and they really lit the fire on the guy from Miami, the defensive end. Got picked. He got picked in the top 10, but there were all these questions about, could he play at the NFL level and all of that.
Well, I mean, we're gonna see.
Yeah, well, whatever team he went to, the questioner, the lady was questioning him, said, "What would you say to the quarterback?" He says, "I will die for you," because this guy's going to play left tackle. So he's the guy that's responsible.
Yep.
To protect that quarterback.
Well, and the thing is if you've seen the movie The Blind Side, everybody knows the most important position is left tackle.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, if you're a right-handed quarterback.
But the easiest job in the NFL is not the kicker; it's backup quarterback.
Yeah.
It's the easiest job. All you got to do is carry a clipboard.
You sit over there and just stay in the game.
Yeah.
And watch what's
just
going
know
on.
what's going on, and your job's done.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I'd love to be a backup quarterback.
Well, that guy that the Raiders picked up from UCF, he is going to be a great edge rusher, I think.
Yeah. I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried about the Cowboys. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he's a Detroit fan, big Detroit fan, a good friend of mine, and he and I were talking about that. I forget the kid's name. He's out of Ohio State, first pick the Cowboys today.
Oh, okay.
They get one with major knee issues. Now, I don't know if it's all the time, but that kind of bothers me.
Yeah, it's with a C.
But
they call him the human missile.
But when he's he's healthy, he's my buddy compared him to Ed Reed.
Yeah.
And we need another Michael Parsons on that defense because our defense last year.
You might be. I think I would say that this kid that they got for the secondary, he's a true safety. Reminds me a lot of John Lynch. I mean,
I can see that.
He brings a dynamite tackling style.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He blows people up. He really does. All right, we got to get to the news. Let's do that, and then we'll be back. Zach's going to be here in the next hour. We got a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on in Razorback sports and as far as the NFL goes as well. That's all coming up after the news here on the Dave Elswick Show.
News breaks fast. We break it down faster. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. KDXE, Kamak Village, Little Rock.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. All eyes will be on Washington, D.C. tomorrow evening. First, President Trump will attend the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner, venturing into what some observers suggest may be unfriendly political territory. At the same time, across town, at the Museum of the Bible, a national scripture reading called America Reads the Bible will culminate. U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson says week-long event highlights our founding fathers' belief in God.
We kicked it off last Saturday night at a big event with so many of our friends and celebrities and some of the great evangelists and pastors and clergy from across the country. Look, I think it's symbolic and important that we do it on the 250th anniversary of the nation because it's, in my view, this is how it all began, of course.
One of the scripture readers on the final evening tomorrow will be Salem Media CEO David Santrella. Speaker Johnson's full interview will be heard when the news program This Week on Capitol Hill is broadcast beginning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow on the Salem News Channel. Secretary of War Hegseth says it's up to Iran. He says Tehran has a chance to make a good deal, a wise deal with the U.S., an agreement that would bring peace, an end to the war.
Operation Epic Fury has been laser focused from the very start, as I've said to all of you. Clear mission objectives, and ultimately Iran will not have a nuclear weapon.
Hegseth says the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports remains in full effect. 34 ships have been turned around in the Strait of Hormuz so far. The Justice Department has ended its investigation of outgoing Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, clearing a major roadblock to the confirmation of Fed Chair nominee Kevin Warsh. Two parts of the country struggling to cope with natural disasters, tornadoes and destructive hail in the plains, devastating wildfires in the southeast, South Georgia specifically. On Wall Street, the Dow down 146 points, NASDAQ up 242. More on these stories, townhall.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-583-0141. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-583-0141. That's 800-583-0141. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
Those beloved black and white bears are coming back to Atlanta.
China's announced it will send 2 giant pandas to Zoo Atlanta in Beijing's latest effort at panda diplomacy, despite tensions with Washington, and less than a month before a much-anticipated visit by President Donald Trump to Beijing. The China Wildlife Conservation Association says male panda Ping Ping and female panda Fu Shuang from the Chengdu research base of giant panda breeding will kick off a decade-long conservation cooperation under an agreement it signed with the zoo last year. The association didn't specify the departure date, but said the US side was actively carrying out facility upgrades to create a more comfortable and safer environment for the pair. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
The EU has approved a $106 billion loan package for Ukraine. The decision came after Russian oil began flowing again to Hungary and Slovakia through a key pipeline. News and analysis, townhall.com. Everything old is new again.
WK Kellogg Company said on Thursday it's including toys with some of its cereals for the first time in more than a decade. Starting April 26, special edition boxes of Frosted Flakes, Fruit Loops, Apple Jacks, and Corn Pops will have plastic toys shaped like characters from Disney and Pixar's Toy Story 5. The movie's scheduled to hit theaters in June. Plastic toys used to be a mainstay in cereal boxes, but they've gradually disappeared as manufacturers tried to cut costs and consumers worried about choking and other hazards. Keith Peters reporting.
In the latest round of tech industry job cuts, Meta laying off about 8,000 workers. Microsoft is off. Meta confirms plans to cut about 10%. Stories, townhall.com.
If things don't change, can you imagine America in 20 years? Scary thought, isn't it? The good news is we have the power to take our nation back. Stay right here for all the information you need. 101.1, The Answer. Scott Jennings sees an armed Iran.
That is enough material, if you enrich it just a little bit more, for 10 to 11 nuclear bomb.
So President Trump was
let me just say, in answer to what you were just talking about, happens to the best of us. I mean, I remember when I turned 60 and I thought, wow, I'm 60 years old, and my last birthday, I was 73.
See, I turned 40 in like 8-9 months.
It's amazing to me, it really is. I mean, I'm one of those guys that was singing along with the Who, Hope I'm Dead Before I Turn Old, and now I don't think 73 is so old.
Yeah.
Get a little water under the bridge as far as that. I wanted to mention, I just got sent something. I want to tell you about it. In celebration of America's 250th birthday, they're going to have a special night of relearning America's founding documents to help re-energize your patriotism. This is going to happen in Whitehall Community Center on Dalloway Road on June 23rd, 2026, from 6 until 8:30 p.m. And the presentation is being done by Ed Monk.
I was going to say it's got to be Ed Monk.
Ed Monk's going to do it. He's going to talk about the Constitution. He's going to talk about the Declaration of Independence. He's going to talk about the U.S. Bill of Rights. And if you think he knows a lot about guns, you're going to be stunned about how much he knows about history.
Oh, yeah. He and I used to do presentations, places like Whole Hog and stuff like that. We'd set it up, and he is very intelligent when it comes to the Constitution.
I love U.S. history.
Yeah, you might want to go to this.
World history, not so much. I'm not very versed in it.
It's free to attend, so it costs about what you want, and
I love it.
And it's open to the public. So there you go.
That's a great price. Free.
Yeah, that's coming up on. Yeah, it's my favorite 4-letter word. Starts with F. June 23rd again. June 23rd from 6 until 8:30. This is a special presentation. In celebration of our 250th anniversary here in the United States. So make sure you go see that. You'll get a lot out of it. You really will. All right, Razorback Zach is in the studio with me right now, and I want to go back and talk a little bit more about the NFL draft. Of course, being on the air this morning, I've not been able to keep up with what's going on in the draft right now. But last night watching the first 15 was really interesting.
Yeah, and it's usually a telltale sign of what's to come the following season, or the following couple of years in the NFL by these by draft day, and it's amazing. I mean, like we were talking about Ty Simpson being taken in the top 15.
Yeah,
that was huge.
It was a stunner, and by the LA Rams. I mean, they got one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, although they know things we don't know. I mean, maybe he's saying this is going to be my last year or something. I don't know.
It's not Goff. Who is it? It's the Stafford, isn't it?
Yeah, Stafford.
Yeah, he's been around.
A good quarterback.
He's a good quarterback, but he's
won a Super Bowl here not too long ago.
Yeah, he's probably got one, maybe I'd say less than 5 years left, and I think he'll turn it over to Simpson or somebody.
Well, Simpson's. They just put a bunch of eggs in one basket yesterday.
I'm not sold on him.
All right, that's what they did. They did a lot. I'm trying to get over to the story here. Is what I'm trying to do. I'm not succeeding very well. Who had a really good, I think, draft was the New York Giants.
Yeah, the Giants needed a good draft. They needed to get as many picks as they could.
Oh, they did well. I mean, they picked. They went with defense. What a big surprise, John Harbaugh.
Yeah,
they're going to build their. He's going to do to New York what he did with Baltimore.
But this time he's not the head coach now, is he?
Yes.
I did not know that Harbaugh got hired by the Giants.
Yeah, he's the head coach of New York Giants.
I must have been living under a rock or something.
I mean, that's going to be cool, Okay, so the draft, and the reason I didn't have to worry about it, draft doesn't continue until tonight, again at 6:30 our time. Concludes with rounds 4 through 7 on Saturday. Gets underway at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
What you got going on? The draft coverage. Las Vegas Raiders taking Fernando Mendoza, quarterback of Indiana. Biggest question, they say, even though General Manager John Spytek and Kubiak prefer letting a young quarterback sit until ready, the best players will ultimately play. The Raiders signed Kirk Cousins from Atlanta ahead of the draft, giving the organization insurance at the position. The best case scenario is that Cousins begins the season as the starter before Mendoza takes over for the rest of the way, similar to the way Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart with the New York Giants did last year. So you got that.
I see. I disagree with that system, especially with the Raiders right now. There's a lot of unanswered questions on that offense, and I wouldn't be surprised if because Cousins has the experience. He's the veteran quarterback of that group, so I doubt he'll see any playing time, especially in the preseason. And I think they'll let Mendoza go all 3-4 games now.
I think it was 3 games.
Is it 3 games now?
Preseason. Yeah.
I would be highly surprised if they let Cousins take a snap in the preseason, if not just a series, just to get him used to the offense. Because I want to see what Mendoza does before I turn him loose during regular season.
All right. New York Giants, first pick that they had was the 5th pick. They picked Arvell Reese, outside linebacker, Ohio State.
That's not a bad pick. They need linebackers. That Giant defense was atrocious. That was
They've got they got the edge rushers in Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, and Kai Von. They're all ready to go. It seems that this puts Thibodeau's future in further doubt. He's set to play this season on his 5th-year option. A trade could be on the horizon. Even with Burns, Carter, and Reese, it will be a challenge for new defensive coordinator Denard Wilson to get the talented rookie on the field enough to justify this high pick. As far as that's concerned, Kansas City took Mansour Delane from LSU at quarterback. He's good. He's a good ball player. That'll help them.
He took that. Wait, what position?
A cornerback.
Okay, I thought you said quarterback. I'm like,
No,
did
not
they?
Quarterback. Don't.
I was like,
cornerback. The Commanders took Sonny Styles, the linebacker from Ohio State. He was the 7th pick, but they got a lot of guys.
it sounds to me like I didn't catch most of it. It sounds to me like it was a defensive heavy first round.
Oh, it was. There's no doubt about that. It's going to be interesting to see these big dudes from Samoa.
Yeah, you and I were talking about that, and
I mean, I'm talking about giant men. I was talking about when I played high school sports, and I was considered a stud because I was 6'1". Now it's like a joke. I can't.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't be able. They wouldn't even take another look at me. 6'1" is average size of a guard.
These Samoans, they're what? They're what? 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, the two that went in the first round or in the first 10, one was 6'4" and 315, and ran the 40 in 4.5.
Good night.
Yeah,
I would not want to be an opposing offense looking at that.
I don't
guy.
want to be. Was it Jeremiah, the running back?
Jeremiah Love.
Yeah,
was that Ohio State?
No,
it was
he ran from Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
You know, welcome to the NFL, brother.
One good pop, dude. That's all. just one good pop.
Oh
good
God.
night.
That's a big man. And then the other one was 6'3" and weighed in at 305. Those are big guys. Those are big men.
That's a big dude.
Yeah, and I mean they're wearing. You've seen the outfits the weightlifters wear that are baggy. That's kind of what their suits look like on them. I mean,
Well, yeah, they're like
so big.
They're like, triple, quadruple X.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. Samoa had a good night last
Hey,
night. to be
that
quite
works.
honest. They really did. They had a good night. All right. Let's talk Razorback baseball.
All right.
All right. They've shown some life.
Yeah. Seems like eighth inning is kind of where they want to live right now. They like living on the edge, but I don't. It's not good for my blood pressure.
Yeah, sure.
Not good for the fans' blood pressure at all. But yeah, they've got Missouri this weekend up in Cuomo. Weather's going to play a factor, though. It's going to be interesting to see how this whole weather system the next couple of hours kind of plays out. I know they got the game in yesterday, but I don't like living on the edge, Dave.
Well, I don't like it either. But if we're going to get to the World Series again, I'll take living on the edge.
I sat here
run.
I sat here a couple of weeks ago, and I said there's no way we make Omaha. I stand corrected. There is a chance, but here's the thing: Arkansas has been one of those programs that's always been a consistent postseason team. They've always been in. They're always in the Omaha conversation. They're always consistent top 8. They've struggled this year for a couple of reasons, but I think they're finally starting to figure it out. That Florida sweep a couple weeks back, I think woke them up.
That was a wake-up call?
I think it was. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure DVH got in their tails because he called a couple of guys out, and since then they've really stepped up.
Well, the coach has been talking about the brother of
Kuhioloi.
Yeah, saying that he's not doing the job.
Yeah, he was one of the players that he got called out on, and
because I think they expected big things from him.
I don't know if it's the pressure of following his big brother, or if it's between the ears. A combination of both. I don't know if he's got too much pressure on him. It's kind of hard to kind of judge where his head's at right now. All I know is he's going to have to pull it together.
Well, yeah, he's got to get his bat going.
Yeah,
he's a good hitter, and he's just been mediocre the whole season.
And Art, I'm still waiting for that ace.
Well,
I'm still waiting for that one pitcher to kind of stand, because you got guys like Kevin Kopps a couple years ago. You had who was our closer?
The fireballer.
Yeah,
I know who you're talking about.
You had him. And then, last year you had Gage Wood. Who's going to step up and take that spot? I haven't seen anybody that I'm confident in going, that's the guy. It was supposed to be guys like Gabe Gackle, and it's supposed to be guys, the senior leadership, Parker Coyle, Gabe Gackle. I just don't see anybody that's stepped up.
Yeah, and now's the time to step up. I mean, we're on the edge of SEC playoff time.
Yeah, and I don't want to be, and it's been a long time, Dave, since we've had to use the SEC tournament to get into a regional or even in the postseason. I don't want to be that team this year.
No, I don't. You never want to be.
I get teams are going to have down years, but this one's been kind of there's a lot of inconsistencies with this team. And I don't understand why they haven't figured it out this deep into the season yet.
I think the head coach feels exactly how you do right now.
If I'm DVH, I'm pulling my hair out.
He doesn't know what team he's going to get when they take the field every game.
It's going to be interesting. You've got 2 games left against Missouri, and we're going to have to take this series if we've got any chance of jumping up higher in the rankings, because right now we're on the outside looking in.
Well, we're hanging in just barely in the top 25.
Yeah, and it's been since 2006 that we've been barely in the top 25. We've always hung out, and even on down years, even on off years, we've top 15, is probably the worst we've done. But this is rough.
All right, let's take a break. 20 after 10. Razorback Zach will be with us until 11 o'clock. We'll talk a little bit more sports with you here on the Dave Elswick Show. I'm going to get in and talk a little bit about the fast pitch Lady Hogs when we come back, but we're going to talk baseball a little bit more when we return here on the Dave Elswick Show.
Tell you about a man named Phineas who as a child survived the Holocaust. Phineas
right now, how many more games do the Razorbacks have to play now before we start the SEC tournament?
I think it's only just a few weeks. Let me get that schedule pulled up real quick.
I mean, Missouri is the final SEC 3-game series, isn't it?
I think so. No, Ole Miss is.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got this one, and then, of course, they won 5-4 last night. Tonight, the first pitch is at 7. I don't know if they're going to get that game in because of weather. They may end up having to do a doubleheader tomorrow at some point.
Are they at home right now?
They're at Columbia. They're in Missouri,
Okay.
and that the weather is getting kind of iffy up there.
Can get chilly.
They got that severe weather, and then they come home Tuesday and Wednesday and do Northwestern State, and then they have the final series of Ole Miss at home May 1st through 3rd.
Okay, so they got 2 weeks.
I stand corrected. We still have a couple of weeks. My phone decided it wasn't going to load. You've got Ole Miss May 1st through 3rd, Oklahoma May 8th through 10th, and then you finish with Kentucky at Kentucky May 14th through 16th, and then May 19th you start the SEC tournament.
All right. So they're what, 23rd, 24th?
I think they're 24th.
Okay. They're still in the top 25, but they're going to have to really turn it on.
They're going to have to put their foot down and put a curb stomping on a couple of people. That 24-14 game against Georgia, wow. That I've never seen that high of a football score in a baseball game. I've never seen something like that. I've seen high scores in baseball. Nothing like a football score.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. 30 runs in a game is unheard of.
Which makes me wonder where was the pitcher's heads? Because they definitely weren't focused on the game.
No, they're 28-15 overall, 10-9 in conference, which is a lot better than last time. We talked about them about a week ago. But they're just not. They're like the football team the last couple of years. They're inconsistent, very inconsistent for a Razorback baseball team that perennially is sometimes a lock for Omaha early in the season.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah, it makes me more than wonder. It makes me nervous.
It doesn't make me wonder about the head coach. He's a great coach. Makes me wonder about the people that they went out and recruited.
I think they missed in the portal this year. And I'm gonna say it. And again, I'm not the baseball guy. I'm the football guy on our staff. And I honestly think that they missed when they misjudged a couple of people that they went out and got in the portal. Not saying that they're bad players. I just don't think they're SEC caliber. They're not hitting enough. They're not pitching enough consistently to go, that's SEC caliber. That's SEC talent.
So how much NIL money is there in baseball in Arkansas?
That's funny you should ask, because we don't hear a lot about the NIL program with baseball. They're kind of a standalone. So I'm gonna say the three most famous words. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know either. And I don't know how you find that out.
I have tried, and it's not out there right now.
They hold their cards close to the vest.
And and then the thing is I'm really not looking at, and most of the fans will agree with me, I'm not looking so close at the players as I am the two assistant coaches. Because I've always the last couple of years had trouble with the hitting coach. We've let too many balls go by, but I've never lost faith in the pitching coach and Matt Hobbs. I'm just questioning his methods of coaching this year and his approach this year versus the last couple of years.
What has he done differently that you've seen?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I haven't quite put my finger on what's different. I at this point, it's got to be between the ears of these pitchers, if anything. But I want to say that the stage may be too big for some of these guys.
Okay.
Playing in JUCO and
it's a whole different ball game, pardon the pun.
Right.
When you're playing SEC baseball.
Think of it this way, Dave. Some of these guys have played into sold out crowds of like 3,500 to 4,000 people. Then you step into Baum Walker Stadium, which holds up to 15,000.
Yeah.
It'll shock your system if you're not ready for it.
Yeah, when they start yelling.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they are vocal there at Baum Walker. They'll let you know too.
Pro and con.
Oh yeah.
They will boo you.
Oh yes. And they will pick somebody out in the outfield and dog him all game long.
Really?
Oh yes.
Wild. All right. Let's go to the news, get that in, and then come back and finish up a Friday show with Razorback Zach, and we'll talk about the Lady Hogs in a moment.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. President Trump says he's taking his time, the time needed to secure a great war-ending deal with Iran. And Secretary of War Hegseth says now is the time for Tehran to make an agreement with the U.S. to end the hostilities. Gas prices creeping up a bit. AAA's national average for a gallon of regular is $4.05. That is up a couple of pennies from yesterday. A ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon, it was to expire on Monday, has been extended for 3 weeks. President Trump made the announcement following a White House meeting of the Israeli and Lebanese ambassadors. South Georgia is burning wildfires, the largest of which are only 10 to 15% contained, have destroyed close to 90 homes. On Wall Street, the Dow down 182 points. The Nasdaq is trading 254 points higher. More details, srnnews.com.
You'll hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-583-0141. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-583-0141. That's 800-583-0141. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
There's a real battle going on, not only for our future, but that of our children and grandchildren. How do we ensure they have it better than we do? One way is to keep listening to us. We're your information source in the battle. 101.1, The Answer. What happens when feelings replace morality? If right and wrong are just personal opinions, then who decides why violence, theft, or chaos are wrong? In his new book, If There Is No God, Dennis Prager tackles the biggest questions of good, evil, suffering, and justice, offering clear arguments for anyone searching for moral clarity in a troubled age. If There Is No God by Dennis Prager. Available now at pragerstore.com. That's pragerstore.com.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to
Okay, so you're worried about the weather still.
Yeah, weather's going to play a factor in all this. But then again, you know, when I'm not, when I don't have my Razorback gear on as Razorback Zach, I'm usually a storm chaser. So you know, meteorology and wet and severe weather is kind of up my other pathway that I usually take. But no, when it comes to baseball, yeah, weather's going to play a big factor. In fact, last weekend I went up to Fayetteville to catch one of the Georgia games, and it ended up in a lightning delay, and I ended up having to come back to Little Rock. But you know, like I said, weather's going to play a factor. That's the way it goes in baseball. I don't have any fear that Arkansas can't get the job done, but our pitching is going to have to be a much more consistent.
Well, they got to be when they walk out on the mound, they got to be mentally ready.
Oh yeah.
That's a huge part of baseball, you know, where your mind is as far as that goes and how well focused you are. I watched the Lady Hogs win midweek, I watched the 7-2 victory over Tulsa, and Heron was on.
She was on fire.
I mean, she was on. She only gave up 4 hits. One was a long ball, but still.
But my question, though, Dave,
pretty amazing.
When this team, can she stay consistent to get them to Oklahoma City?
Well, that's always been the question. They've gotten close a couple of times, but have yet to break through.
They've and the, you know, the buzzsaw they keep running into Oklahoma.
Oh yeah,
but they played a pretty good series against Oklahoma in the regular season.
Well, they beat them for the first time in 7 years.
Yep. So I don't want to go out on a limb.
Do you think this is the year they get?
This
to,
might
they get
be
to go play in the World Series.
This might be the year they make it to Oklahoma City. And the thing is, here's the thing, and I'm not going to put all my eggs in the basket and say they're going to win the whole thing, but just getting there for the first time in program history is a big deal, and that it plays into recruiting of, hey, look at where we were, 7 to 9 years ago when Deifel took the job to where she is now.
Yeah, she's built a great program there.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Dave. 9 years ago, I didn't know we had a softball team. I don't think half of Razorback fans knew we had a softball team, much less a gymnastics team. And they battled for a national title in Fort Worth.
Excuse me. So it's going to be interesting. I'm sure that coach of the softball team probably feels like I do, and that is if they make it to Oklahoma to play in the World Series, that will break through and make it something that happens often.
Well, and I've got 3 keys that's basically holding them back from getting into the College World Series in Oklahoma City. One of them, you've got to have a true ace dominance in SEC play.
They got that in Heron.
They've got to. Someone who can take game 1 versus elite teams and actually own it. And I mean, not just get them through, but I mean dominate from beginning to end.
Right.
You got to have more consistency against elite pitching like Oklahoma. They still have stretches.
Texas Tech.
Yeah, Texas Tech.
Oh my God.
They're still not doing too well at the plate against those kind of teams, and they're going to run into those in the regionals, super regionals, and ultimately at Oklahoma City. The next one, you got to close out the big series. They did that against Oklahoma for the first time in 7 years. That's a plus. But can they and I'm gonna sound like a broken record. Can they stay consistent? Is the biggest question moving forward.
Yeah, when it comes and by the way, I'm not saying that Deifel's not done a good job. I think she's done a superior job. But yet there comes a time when you look at a program and it like stalls.
Yeah.
And it can't go further. And maybe it's somebody else that does it. I'll give you a great example from NFL. The head coach of the Buffalo Bills. They let him go.
Oh, who is it? Who was it? Was it McDermott? No,
McDonald. Yeah, they let him go. And the reason they let him go is that they couldn't make the next step.
No, they get to the playoffs and then they crumble. They get to the wild card and they crumble. I look at it like this. That question of can they get over the hump or is it stalling out? A lot of people, if we don't get through the Sweet 16 next year in basketball, they're going to start wondering, okay, what has to happen?
Yeah.
And they've asked it, and I'm going to bring it up. They've asked it since 2018. Can DVH win the big one? That's the only trophy missing from that little trophy case out there at Baum Walker, the little museum out there. It's the only trophy missing from that.
And that's not saying that he's a bad coach.
No,
it's just sometimes you got to have and I'm not saying change the coaching right now. Don't take me wrong on this. But you got to face the fact if you've not won it and you had it in your hand a couple of years ago,
quite literally,
then what do you do?
And I'm not, and believe me, and I know my phone's going to be lighting up in about 20 minutes. I'm not saying John Calipari's not the answer. I'm not saying DVH is all washed out. I'm not saying that. I'm using those as examples because there are some members of the fan base that have asked, are these two the right guys for the job? Because we can't seem to break through and get to the championship.
Well, here's the key now. Let's talk about this. Is it the coaching or is it the facilities?
Well, it's not the facilities in baseball. We've got one of the best facilities in the country.
You know, I wouldn't think it's in football. I've been up there.
It's not the facilities.
Areas, but that brings you up. Is it your assistant coaches?
See, that's kind of where I'm leaning
you're
towards.
Not getting the best that you need.
You know, and with the basketball team, I don't think so. I think Calipari's got. I think he's got a good plan going in.
Okay.
Baseball, I just think they missed this year. I think they just misjudged a lot of players this year. That's all. I mean, and it happens sometimes. Football is
well, you got a blank slate to work with.
You do have a blank slate, and about 70% of this roster is brand new. And so if you guys go up to Fayetteville tomorrow, I'm still rolling around about me going. Like I said, I haven't decided completely yet, but
it's going to be nice.
Keep an open mind when you go up there tomorrow. It's more about it's installing a brand new offense. You're not going to see anything out of the ordinary, but it's more about seeing the team gel, chemistry, reinstalling, and rebuilding this program, because I hate to say it, this football program's hit rock bottom, and we've been there since about 2018, 2019. So when you guys go tomorrow, don't think you're going to have, these exciting big whoop plays that get you excited to going into the fall. This is just to see where the team stands at the end of spring ball, about how much more work they've got to do when it comes to summer OTAs and then going into fall camp.
And how much extra work they got to do in the weight room.
Exactly. I'm cautiously optimistic about football, but it's going to be. It may be the Utah game before I'm like, okay, let's ride.
All right. So how many games do you believe the new coach has to win to not put himself in the doghouse?
Well, and it's kind of a trick question, Dave, if you think about it. First-year head coach always gets a bye his first season. All right.
Not with me, they don't.
Well, no, because you didn't even like John Calipari at one point. And he's got 2 Sweet 16s back to back.
Yeah.
But for Ryan Silverfield and this staff, I mean, you get 6 wins this year. You go 6-6. That's.
Well, I would be okay with 6-6.
Anything above 6, you've outkicked your coverage.
Yeah, but how about everything under 6?
Right now, from a fan's point of view, or from a national point of view, we're
from the fans' point of view.
Fans' point of view.
They'd be happy with 3 wins.
They're not expecting anything but maybe 4 to 5 wins.
Okay.
Next year, once the new wears off, he's got a year under his belt. And of course, everybody's argument right now is, well, he's had a full offseason. He's had a complete full offseason. But things take time. Things, especially with this football program, things take time. I would wait and hold judgment against him until next year.
Okay.
Simply because you take this year, you install the new offense, you get the pieces in place that you need, and if you keep everybody, it's a relatively young team. You bring everybody back. They've got a year under his belt. They know what to expect from him. And we've talked about it before. The biggest jump in improvement is from what? Year 1 to year 2. So look at year 2 as the one where you can criticize and everything else. This year, I'm going to say anywhere between 4 and 6 wins.
All right. Okay.
Bowl eligibility is what you're shooting for, whether it's 5-7 or 6-6.
Getting into it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, but we're going to find out how well this guy knows how to use the portal.
Oh yeah.
And that's the whole game now.
It is, and it's the portal and the NIL is where the true recruiting comes into play.
And from what we've heard, they've got the money in NIL to give the players.
Not if you're Hunter Yurachek. If you know how I feel about him now.
Now I know that, but I'm talking about they got the money up on the hill to give to these players if necessary.
So.
And how much money is enough money now?
That's the key. But as a final snapshot going into the spring game tomorrow, it's a defense first team trying to figure out its offensive identity in real time. By that, I mean defense is ahead of the curve. When's the last time we talked about an Arkansas defense that has outdone the offensive side of the ball?
It's been several years.
Offenses, they're still building it. There's still a lot of unknown pieces there, especially at the quarterback position. Like I said, that's also the unresolved centerpiece. That if you get that position there taken care of, everything else falls into place.
Yeah, Mendoza is a perfect example of you got to have a great quarterback to take you to the final step.
But in order to have a great quarterback is the other side of that coin, the offensive line.
Oh, yeah.
There's still and again, fans, we got a long way to go before fall and a long way before this team is what I like to call up to par to where I feel comfortable enough that we can take on a Georgia.
SEC capable.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting there. I don't want to say those infamous words. We're close.
No.
But we're getting there. You got just patience. A little bit of patience is all.
All right. Final break, and then we're back for the final segment of a Friday edition right here on 101.1 The Answer.
In a world where more and more people decide what's right and wrong based on how they feel, what happens when feelings become the
So, what are you going to be watching during this Missouri segment? They've won one of the three thus far. So, do they have to sweep to really get themselves ready, and everybody can that's watching college baseball goes, well, looks like Arkansas is back.
That's kind of a two-headed sword. That's kind of a two-edged sword there. The fan in me wants to sweep every SEC series.
Well, yeah.
You know, the fan, but realistically,
shows every player.
Well, yeah, but realistically, I mean, you're in the top 25. You may end up you may end up in a regional, but you're probably not going to host unless a miracle happens. So I mean, at that point, you're like, okay, well, I mean, we're in the regional, you know, and we may even get we may even host a regional. We won't be hosting the supers though, is the thing. But I mean, you take 2 out of 3, it's not bad. Thing is, you can't win them all. I would love a sweep of Missouri. Nothing would make me happier than the sweep of Missouri. They're just not consistent enough.
How good's Oklahoma when we take them on?
I mean, let me see if I can pull them up.
It's not one of their best teams by a long shot. I've been following them from afar.
It's not one of their best, but if you can catch Arkansas in one of those lulls.
Yeah, the Funks.
Yeah, if you can catch them at the right time.
You can beat knots on their head.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think we're there. I think we're out of the funk. I just don't think we're confident enough yet. I know, and everybody's like, well, the season's almost over. I know, but it's just like basketball. You got to get hot at the right time.
Yeah, when you go to the SEC tournament, season starts over again.
It does. And the thing is if the rankings come out and we're a lock for the postseason, I'm okay being a one and done. I am okay being a one and done because it is the most pointless tournament, especially when you're a lock for the regional, and it puts you at the biggest risk. What happens if a guy, throws his elbow out? What if one of your starting pitchers gets hurt? Or you burn through your pitchers before the postseason, because we've run into that too.
Mm-hmm.
We've run into that too, where we've burnt through our bullpen, we've burnt through our pitching staff, and we get to the postseason and you're using Kevin Kopp's 9 innings too long. So, at the end of the day, 2-1 against Missouri, not bad.
Yeah, it's on the road. Anytime you win, you win the series, not sweep, but win the series on the road. You've done well.
The series that I'm going to be keeping an eye on is that Ole Miss series. We are a big rival, and they've even admitted we're a rival to Ole Miss baseball. That's the one I want to see us sweep.
Okay.
If we sweep Ole Miss, we'll be all right.
Are we at home for that?
I believe so.
Because we end on the road with Kentucky.
Yeah, we are at Baumwalker next weekend for that series.
No excuses then.
We've got and that, if anything, that would be because you're not playing Vanderbilt, you're not playing Texas, you're not playing Tennessee. If anything, if any of the teams that we're playing this year, and that's the thing, is we've got an easy schedule this year. We should not be this inconsistent. This should have been the season where we're blowing through everybody.
Well, especially Tennessee, because they had a whole new coaching staff.
Well, we're not even playing them unless we play them in the tournament. But that Ole Miss series right there, that's the one I want to sweep, and I want to sweep up big. Kind of how Coach Yo says, and remember the Titans, leave no doubt.
Yeah, well, you can't, and you know what? That's more for the team than it is for the fans.
Well, for the fans, that'll be the moment where you can actually say Arkansas's back. If you truly want to go out on that limb and go that route, if we sweep Ole Miss, you can actually say Arkansas's back. But the problem is, you turn around, you got Oklahoma and Kentucky to end the season, so it doesn't get any easier.
No, Oklahoma's not. Are we playing them at Oklahoma, or are we playing them at home?
That's at home. You've got 2 back-to-back home series, and then you end the regular season at Lexington.
Okay, all right. And I've not been all that impressed with Kentucky this year.
Again, and Kentucky's one of those that'll sneak up on you if you're not ready for it.
But they're
Arkansas cannot overlook Kentucky. You can't overlook them to go, okay, we can get into the SEC tournament and go from there. You don't do that. Yeah. Don't do that.
I don't disagree with you there. But.
By the way, programming note before we get out of here, Dave.
Yeah.
The spring game is not being streamed tomorrow. They're following kind of a lot of other college football programs, and they're not letting anybody, unless you're in attendance, they're not streaming to anybody.
Really?
Yeah, they've kind of gone that route, and I figured they were going to with the new regime that's up there now, to kind of keep everything close to the chest. So I'm not surprised by it. I just don't want everybody to be on the internet going, "Where's the game at?" I thought it was streaming. There is no streaming for the Arkansas spring game tomorrow.
Okay. I don't know if I agree with that or not, but anyway.
I mean, it's to be expected.
You're afraid that everybody's already out coaching for you, huh?
Oh yeah.
All right. But you're not going to.
Well, but think about it, Dave. Right, as of right now, Arkansas is being overlooked. Nobody's taking Arkansas football seriously.
Yeah.
And they got good reason to. I would if I'm Georgia, LSU, Florida, Texas. We're playing Arkansas. All right, we got this.
Well, our fan base is going to be that if they show any inkling of being a little bit better, that'd be big news.
Well, and it's like I tell everybody, if you really want to see where this team's at, that second game of the season from Provo, Utah, that's the one to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, one of those big Samoan guys came from Utah. The one
they got another one up there.
That was 6'4" and 315.
I had a feeling you were going to say it was that dude.
Yeah, he was big guy. I think he played. I'm trying to look in my mind right now, looking at the video they showed. I think he was right side end, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds about right.
No. Maybe, to be able to crush down on the defense and be able to spring your runners out. You get them outside on the edges. All right. Anyway,
but I said,
keep my fingers crossed.
After tomorrow, when I come back next week, we'll have a lot clearer picture of where this team stands as far as football goes.
So you're trying to figure out whether you're going or not still.
Yeah, with the weather going on up there, I'm kind of juggling some ideas around.
Okay,
but I'll have a full report for you next week.
All right, we'll talk to you then. I hope you have a great weekend out there. I know that I'm going to try to have a great weekend. I'm going to try to stay dry on the way home, but I'm going to try to have a great weekend. Saturday and Sunday. And then we'll get back together. I'll see you on the radio at 7 a.m. We'll start off with the Bible guys, and then we'll pick up the power panel. And I'm sure we'll have a couple of guests to go along with that. So see you then. Have a great weekend. And thank you for coming in, Razorback.
Always.
Appreciate you. And we'll talk to you again next Friday here on the Dave Elswick Show.
Woo pig.